What is up, everyone? Chris Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. Not sure if that went out correctly, so I'm going to try one more time. What's up, everyone? Chris Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. Wanted to do a quick little show about removing toxic energies, the consciousness shift that we are experiencing right now, and some of the work that Sheree and I have been doing in the background, some of the work that we've been doing in the foreground as well, and also it's a very, very, very important time right now, and a time of great, great, great transformation. I'm going to try to keep this show brief, and Sheree's not going to be joining us tonight because she is getting some rest, and she's got surgery tomorrow morning. I've got to take her at 5:30 in the morning, and we're finally removing that physical toxic energy from her, and it feels great. And so I wanted to give her an opportunity to rest. But right now, we are going through some major shifting, and it's not only something that Sheree and I are going through, but it's something that we're going through on a worldwide scale, and just the energies are just shifting. And so I wanted to kind of loop you into what we've been dealing with, how we've been dealing with it, and also how you can kind of deal with it as well. And it's time to let things go that are toxic. It's time to watch each other's back. It's time to just really take things to the next level, because the chapters are changing. And we're moving towards a new chapter. And this whole show right here, I wanted to do with Sheree, but like I said, she needed to get some rest. And with all the energy work we've been doing, I just don't feel right about waking her up. But it is kind of twin flame related too. So I just want to put this on the screen really quick here, because this was actually what kind of confirmed to us that what we've been dealing with over the last couple months is something that's happening on a worldwide scale, plus a lot of her transit readings, a lot of her chart readings as well. But Marshall Bryant actually reposted this from Twin Flame Sacred Union, and it says there's a huge shift right now in relationships. Toxic relationships are ending. Allow them to end. Surrender. Do not settle for less. The collective is going through an upgrade, and we cannot take them with us. We cannot carry the baggage any longer. And when you're with somebody for 13 years now, as Sheree and I have been, there's been a lot of baggage between us. There's been stuff that we've had to clear out. There's been external energies that we've had to disconnect from, and really regroup and recenter ourselves. And Sheree was going through some interesting transits just recently that actually ended June 9th. And it just seems like everything is happening in perfect synchronicity, because her surgery is June 10th, right after she gets out of these negative transits. So I'm super excited. Just to kind of loop you in, we were rear-ended by a drunk driver a couple years ago, and it's been, nonstop, checking this, checking that, checking this, checking that. I'm not going to get into the details and bore you, but let me just say that all of this could have been resolved back in December or January had we gone with a different surgeon, but we wanted to wait for the best, and we found the best, and we found an energy healer. He was really tuned into the energies and tuned into the body's healing mechanism as well, both the physical and the ethereal, which is very, very rare to find, at least for a surgeon to speak so openly about energy healing and the importance of energy healing and twins coming together to heal each other. I mean, he was talking to both of us about how it's important for both of us to come together and help to heal post-surgery. So I'm so glad that we waited, because we're getting it done in the right time. And while there was a lot of waiting over the last 6 months to get to this first light at the end of the tunnel, I think it was well worth the wait. And there was a lot of strife, a lot of struggle, a lot of tribulation, everything that we went through. But we didn't jump the gun. We didn't say, okay, we're going to take the immediate solution, the immediate gratification with the other surgeon, And that resulted in us finding an actual energy healer who's also a surgeon. The other guy had forgotten that she had EDS altogether. And so that was a big red flag, like, whoa, okay, he doesn't even understand her collagen disorder, which briefly, I guess I can explain real quick. EDS is a connective tissue disorder that's it's a miswriting of the DNA. And so this happens on a DNA level, and it also happens at birth too. And it's something that's passed from generation to generation to generation. And Cherie was unfortunately, she just had this in her genetic line going all the way back. I mean, her mother had it, her grandmother had it, so on and so forth. And it's called the invisible illness because you really can't tell that somebody has this, but what happens is they become super bendy, like contortionists, and the insides start to be affected. And then especially when you have a rear end impact like that, that can turn things upside down. And she deals with a lot that she doesn't talk about. And it's just recently that we started talking about it openly. And I'm so glad that we did because we realized that there's so many people out there who are also dealing with the same kind of issues or similar issues. And when we started opening up a dialogue, I was just amazed at the outpour of not only support, but also people who we were able to elevate, who felt like, hey, what I'm experiencing is okay. And it's all part of this matrix reset process. And I think it helped to inspire others to deal with it in the same way that Cherie's been dealing with it, which she's been right in front of it, and she's been doing shows, and she's just been kicking ass and just doing all kinds of stuff like that. But she'll dislocate a bone about 20 to 30 times a day. And I'm not talking about subluxations. I'm talking about actual dislocations. Dislocating a finger, dislocating the wrist, dislocating a shoulder, dislocating the ankle, dislocating toes, for example. And I've become pretty much an unlicensed chiropractor. And it's funny because one of my best friends is a chiropractor here. But the reason that I illustrate this is because we've been doing a lot of mind over matter things. We've been doing a lot of energy healing between us and removing a lot of toxic energies from our sphere and rebalancing things. And there are a couple things that I wanted to talk about in this broadcast, especially to twins out there, or people who are by themselves looking for their twin, or just people who are just in relationships altogether and dealing with some of the struggles. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the chronic pain issues, but, dealing with something like chronic pain in a relationship, I think you can take the lessons that are learned from a relationship like this and some of the challenges and apply them to other challenges that are just in any relationships out there at all, period. And ultimately, it all comes down to the power of raw consciousness, which brings it all the way back to the raw consciousness. But let's get into this, and I'll start with the kind of transits that we're going through right now. Everybody's going through the big shifting and the preparation for the next chapter for not only the BTV tribe, but for the world. Let's get into it.
The sky's so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one. Got a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'll be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I am not joined by my lovely wife and twin flame, Mrs. Gio, but I just want to give a big shout out to Anish And I want to ask the tribe if we can send a lot of healing energy to Anish. She said, had a motorcycle crash last week, screwed up my knee, got my Isolife today, and the second I rubbed it in the area, I was able to walk without pain. That is absolutely amazing, Anish. And I know that we had said that we wanted to send you a couple of bottles because you had just been, not only have you been a Patreon, but you've also been you also constantly send super chats, man. I can't thank you enough for the loving energy. If I drop the ball on that, then I'm going to go ahead and send you a couple more because I know that I asked you to send me a Facebook message and I don't know if I got to that Facebook message. So if I didn't, I apologize and I definitely want to take care of that. But I also want to send my condolences for the motorcycle crash. That's terrible, man. That is terrible. And also thank you very much for the love and for the recognition that for the review of Isolife and how it worked just by rubbing it in the area. And you were able to walk without pain. For those of you that don't know, real quick, I'll just plug Isolife real quick. Isolife is 99% pure CBD infused with the spirit of the ayahuasca vine. And really, when we make this, we put in all the love and all the energy in the same way that we make our actual ayahuasca brew. Now, I want to make a distinction because somebody on Facebook was asking me about it and they were a bit confused. This is non-psychoactive and it's purposefully meant to not have any THC in it or anything psychoactive in it because a lot of people who are in pain management, for example, can't test positive for THC. Some people can't test positive for THC because of drug testing at work or things like that. And me personally, when I get THC in me, I eat and I already have a problem trying to get this damn belly down. Even if I eat 1,500 calories a day, it will not go away. I don't know what the hell's going on here. The doctor just said, dude, that's just your natural body type. And I'm like, oh, damn it. And he asked me, is your father like that? I said, yeah, he's been working out for 25 years and he still has a belly like mine. He goes, well, there you go. Anyways, but Isolife, it's just been freaking amazing. And we've been helping so many people and just getting so many great reviews like with Anish. So real quick, if you're not familiar, go to single bottle, put in 246810 in your cart, type in BTV Tribe and hit apply and you will get buy one, get one free. So each bottle is 500 milligrams. You get 2 bottles for $59. So you're getting 1,000 milligrams of 99% pure CBD with the ayahuasca vine. And as I said before, our process is a little different than most of the things that are on the market. They have that crude CBD oil and they say it's 1,000 milligrams a bottle and all this, and they sell it for like $150, but they include wax and fats and all kinds of stuff like that in it. We do a purification process where we're actually extracting the CBD out of it, infusing it into USDA certified organic coconut oil. We have a couple of other secret ingredients in there as well. And then also the loving energy that Cherie and I put into it when we make it with the same reverence and respect and clearing, energetic clearing, everything that we do when we make our actual ayahuasca brew. And I think that, you combine all that together, not only is it the physiological aspect of it, but it's also the spiritual and ethereal aspect of it that I think that's why, as Anish just said, I rubbed it on my knee right after a car accident, a motorcycle accident, and I was able to walk without pain. And that is truly, truly, truly an amazing testimonial right there. So again, thank you, Anish, very much. And I'll just put that on the screen real quick. Let me see if I can pop this out real quick and get this over here. But yeah, here we go. I can pop it on the screen right here. So and thank you for the super chat too, brother. That's freaking awesome, man. Much love to you, brother. I hope you and I get to meet someday. I really do. So I want to talk about the consciousness shift that we're experiencing right now. It seems to be a global thing. So we've kind of crossed into another timeline and we're moving towards the positive timeline. So to rewind a little bit, May 2018, Sheree and I did a ritual in the Great Pyramid along with several other temples, and our mission was to reset the Matrix. And we said 4 years and 7 months is the countdown time. We're coming up to that 4 year, 7 month mark now, which should be around December or maybe January. I mean, obviously, we don't know the exact time, but we know around the certain time when the reset process is happening. And as we said before, in 2020, things are going to get rough. We were saying this in 2018, 2019. We didn't think it was going to manifest into what it's manifested. And then in 2020, when we saw, 2020 going into 2021, we saw a shifting in the political sphere, which we were initially focused on trying to push it in one direction because that seemed to be the best timeline. If we were to push it in that one direction, the opposite direction of where it went now. And we did some rituals on 11/11/2020 at the Luxor Pyramid here in Las Vegas. And then we did another one on 12/21. And our intention first was to shift it into the 2020 timeline that we, from our 3D selves, perceived to be the best timeline. But then something happened on the night of the ritual of 12/21. We got several messages saying, Chris, be careful. Don't put your intention into it. Remove your 3D self, remove all of that, and put the intention into the ritual of manifesting the best possible timeline. Leave everybody out of it. Don't include any particular energy or anything else like that. Leave it completely and totally up to the universe to just decide what is the best timeline. And as things started to shift, January 20th, 2021, everybody was disappointed, including me, especially me. I was thinking, what happened? Did we do something wrong? Did we make a wrong turn somewhere? What happened? And things started to kind of go into a downwards slope. And on the 3D level, it seems like we're in a very negative timeline. Here, gas is $6 a gallon. It's $8 a gallon in California, I think maybe even going up to $10. The cost of living has gone up through the roof. Las Vegas is having a water crisis right now, and I don't know if Las Vegas is going to be a thing in the next 20 years or 30 years. I don't know how long we can sustain this. And not only is the water from the Hoover Dam feeding Las Vegas and Nevada, it's also going into California as well. It seems like they're completely and totally trying to take out the East Coast. And it seems like blue states are the ones who are being affected the most with high crime and everything like that. Or high crime rates, I should say. Washington, D.C. is being affected by high crime the most right now. But as we started to meditate and really, figure out what's going on with this timeline, I think the general consensus now is hindsight is always 20/20, no pun intended, but we're seeing a global shift towards the positive, and we're seeing the negative slowly dying away. And it's interesting to watch because we initially thought that it was our energy that was going to shift this into the positive timeline and take this virus out of the system. But what actually is going on is it seems like the antivirus is actually working in a way to where the virus itself is eliminating itself from the system. So it's like a cancer turning on onto a body and then killing the immune system of the body, which is very reminiscent of something that people are putting in their arms right now. I'm not going to use any keywords or anything like that because we've already got like 2 videos that we got warnings on that we did like way back in like 2020 and 2019. And YouTube just really seems to be like going through all of our old videos and messing with them. But anyways, it seems like, the virus is just eliminating itself from the system. And it's actually a beautiful thing to watch. And while, this reset process, it's rough to be in, it's ultimately going to lead to something positive. We're watching a lot of states flip on the political scale. We're watching a lot of people take their own power, harness their own power, and push off this virus-infected system that is worldwide. And, the marker that I've used is the geopolitical atmosphere of the Matrix. And I just want to make a distinction. It's not the politics itself. That politics is a representation of the energies that are working in the background. So we can see the energies working in the background, both in the background and also manifesting themselves in the 3D. So this is why it's important to look at the 3D, and why it's important to not only look at the 3D, but also look at the energies in the background and kind of line all of those up together. So as we start lining all of those up together, we start to see that they're crumbling from the inside and taking themselves out, while at the same time people are holding on more to their own power, realizing their own power, and moving accordingly. And so if we would have pushed it, with our own 3D will, what we in the 3D perceive to be the positive timeline, I think that would have actually resulted in something negative. And the reason for that is because people have to see. And I can just tell you from personal experience myself, I have always been that type. My father used to tell me, don't touch that. Don't touch the little sockets. The electric socket. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. Don't touch that. And I would not listen. I had to touch it myself and get shocked myself and go, I remember still to this day being like 2 or 3 years old and getting that jolt from sticking my finger in the electric socket. But I learned firsthand not to stick my finger in the electric socket. And unfortunately, I think that's just the way people are. People have to see it. And as I am navigating through my own personal sphere, I'm not meeting anybody who is happy with the current state of what's going on, which means that there is a global awakening. And we can even look at things like Elon Musk, for example, who at the very least, what happened is he was planning to buy Twitter, and he made a bid on Twitter, and then he asked for disclosure. Because when you buy a business, you have to audit that business, and all the books need to be opened. There needs to be a fair and realistic representation of how many users there are on Twitter, for example. And Twitter is full of bots. So it was interesting to watch people like Mark Hamill, who I love his work as an actor. I don't like his politics. But he's saying, you can go and read posts by a lot of these people. Hey, I just lost 8,000 subscribers. Hey, I 8,000 followers. Hey, I just lost another 5,000. Hey, I just lost another 12,000. And it was a huge bot purge from Twitter. And now they're refusing to show him, the extent of the bots that are controlling Twitter. So at the very least, even if he doesn't move forward and buy Twitter, what's happened is he has exposed all of the bots on Twitter, and they all have these little verified accounts by their name. Some of them have MD. We did a show about bot farms and how bot farms work, and how they will literally hook up 200, 300, 400 cell phones to make it look like it's unique people, like it's real people. And some of these accounts, they look real. They genuinely look real. And they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers. And they're all bots, and they're all posting the exact same thing with the same grammatical errors and same syntax errors, and they're posting everything that's pro consensus, official narrative, pro-official narrative, to make people feel like they're in the minority, when in actual fact, the majority out there is not thinking in the way that they want them to think. I would even go so far as to say that the rates of people who have been receiving the thing in the arm is not 70, 80%. I think it's more like maybe 10%. And they just want to put the illusion out there that, oh, well, the rest of the herd is doing it, so you might as well jump on board and do it as well. And all that's being exposed. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. And so I never in my 3D mind imagined or fathomed the matrix reset manifesting itself like this. But that's the way it's been with the entire journey. When I went to the Great Pyramid, I did not expect the experience that I got. I expected a completely different experience. I expected to go into the sarcophagus, take a mass amount of ayahuasca, and have a blast-off experience like I'm in a rocket ship just flying through space. As it turned out, it was the complete opposite. It was a blast-off effect for the first part, but then the second leg of it was really taking a lot of will and pushing through all of the stuff, a bunch of sludge and things like that to get to my destination there. So that was an experience that was completely different than what the 3D mind thought. Likewise, I thought I would come out glowing, going, look at the energy, et cetera, et cetera. And instead I came out looking like I had been through the gutter. And it took me about a year to decompress. So that experience came out completely different than what I thought. The 11/11 situation, when we went in to go try to shut this portal down on 11/11, I expected to be able to go find the portal and shut it down. I get there and I get in and I can't even get to the portal, and I'm being pulled away from my body and I'm being pulled off into some void. And I'm asking myself if that was my exit point, and still to this day, I'm asking myself if that was supposed to be my exit point. And I've even got it freaking tattooed on my arm as a daily reminder. Why are you wearing that stupid man suit? But as many people pointed out, that was probably a soul trap. But in my mind, what I thought going into the experience was that it was going to be an experience of going in there with all my power, with all my energy, closing down this portal and clearing it out and getting the job done, just like we did in Egypt. As a matter of fact, no, it didn't. It was completely the opposite of what I thought. Same with 1221. I went in 1221 and I actually made a video saying goodbye to everybody, because when I realized that we couldn't do the ritual where we initially wanted to do the ritual because we weren't supposed to, and I saw the crescent moon in the sky above the Luxor pyramid, like literally inside of the light of the Luxor pyramid as it's shining up, I realized the ritual needed to be done at the Luxor pyramid, and I knew that my body had shut down in the previous ritual, and I thought that was going to be my exit, and I was saying goodbye to everybody. Once I got into that space on 1221, it was easy to go in there and shut that portal down this time. So it was the opposite. I was expecting it to be just as rough, just as difficult, and I was preparing to not walk out of that place. And it was very easy to go in there and shut it down. This time, I had all of the energy and all of the power and everything from the BTV tribe, and it was the opposite experience. We did have some issues with like false light illusions and things like that we had to go through, but it wasn't nearly as an intensive experience as I expected. So likewise, with the matrix reset process, it's happening in a way that the 3D mind just doesn't comprehend, and it doesn't make sense to the 3D mind. But when we go into the raw consciousness, then we realize that everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to be. So think about it on the geopolitical spectrum. If we had the other guy in office, yes, we would have better gas prices. We would have better rent. We would have the cost of living would be better. The immediate gratification would be much easier and much better. But the long-term effects of that would have wound up in the cabal doing something very drastic, and maybe even nuclear war or, something like that was done and then blamed on the guy that's in office. And so going in the other direction, if he had the looking glass technology, as many people were saying that he did, because there were a lot of situations where he would say the complete opposite of what you would think needs to be said, and he would always come out on top, almost as if he knew what was going to be thrown at him, and he had seen it or had done it before, or something like that. And the interesting thing is, his uncle is John Trump, who was a physicist that was tasked with going into Tesla's laboratory, getting all of Tesla's work, including his work on free energy and time travel, and going back and reporting to the United States government if he found anything that was applicable. And he came back and he said, no, we didn't find anything that we can actually use. However, that doesn't mean that he didn't find anything that he can actually use. And then, of course, you have the anomalies of, Baron Trump, the adventures of Baron Trump, written in the late 1800s, which is a story about a kid. His father is a real estate guy on Wall Street up in New York, and he becomes president, and all kinds of stuff like that. It's like a repetition, and the guy even looks exactly like Baron Trump did at the time. And so there's so many different things that came together to go, okay, there's something seriously here going on that we have to look at. Whether it's kooky or not, it's completely up to you to decide. But I think that if he did have the looking glass technology, he saw that if he was to push the issue too much, then he would have pushed it in the wrong way. Or let's entertain the other side of the coin. Maybe that was an op in and of itself. I have to ask myself if that was the case. And I've been talking to a few people lately, and they've been saying, yeah, that guy was an op. He was part of them, all of that, so on and so forth. But any way it goes, whether he was or not, it didn't really, the marker, in my opinion, was misapplied because it wasn't about him. Or, I guess let me put it like this. The marker wasn't him and him moving things forward. The marker was always us and how we are moving through this. And as we're watching more and more and more people wake up, we finally hit this transit point that I think it's starting now in June 10th. Actually, it's June 9th now, but June 10th, going all the way to December of 2022, maybe January of 2023, sometime around there, where we're going to start watching a shift. And I think we're going to see this shift manifesting in the political sphere, where we start seeing a lot of these people removed and replaced. And it's going to be people, where they're going to be replaced with people who are more people-oriented and working to make things better. But people had to see the worst. People had to see what the worst outcome can possibly be, and why they want to get their own consciousness right, why they want to forget about all these political ideologies, throw everything out the window, and just come back to a point of raw consciousness and looking at things on a brother and sister level rather than looking at the divide and conquer tactics that we've seen. I mean, we can even look at the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, in which for the first time it was shown to the world that the Me Too movement was corrupt, that the Me Too movement there was something seriously wrong with it. Now, is there a cause for the Me Too movement? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of misbehaving going on there and things like that. But also, it's not a one-way street. And as we saw with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, Amber Heard was abusive as hell to Johnny Depp. And he got completely and totally screwed, and now he's been vindicated, and I think even counterbalancing that whole Me Too movement. And so all these movements here are like energy, right? You just look at it as like energy programs of the virus running, taking things that are very near and dear to our hearts, and something that is very easy to pull on the heart chakra. You hear about women being abused. Most people, their heart chakra is going to be pulled by that. And they're going to be pulled without critical thinking and without really thinking through the situation. And that's actually what they were trying to push for many, many, many years. Believe her, believe her, believe her, believe her. And we saw with the Kavanaugh situation, where some lady who looks like Dana Carvey from Wayne's World playing Garth. I mean, it was like ridiculous. Like this woman was not very attractive. And she's saying that Kavanaugh did this and did that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, 30 years later, and as it turns out, she wasn't anywhere near the vicinity. She wasn't anything like that. And so that was exposing how the program is being played and how the program is being used to take out certain players in the game. And that wasn't effective there. It started to fall apart there. Then with this whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation, it was shown that abusive relationships are a two-way street. It's not necessarily that it's the woman that's always the victim. Sometimes the man is the victim too. And I think now it's making people think twice, and especially with Amber Heard completely and totally destroying her career, other celebrities are now going to think twice about making false accusations against people. And how do you defend yourself against a false accusation like that, especially when somebody can come out of the woodworks 30 years later, like they did in the situation of Kavanaugh? But when you think about the energy of what's going on, it's the energy of the virus that's accuse, do not think, don't use any logical processors, don't think about this, just automatically be pulled by your heartstrings, by your emotions and all of that. And then we also have the opposite, which is the lack of compassion and the lack of empathy and the lack of understanding. So they were trying to play everybody against each other. And it's all these divide and conquer tactics. So we saw the closing of a cycle with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation. Some people would say that it was all staged and just a distraction and whatnot. And it very well could have been. But it's still a representation that a loop is starting to close and the agenda is starting to close. It was really, really interesting to see the Me Too movement completely disavow Amber Heard from the very beginning, especially when all the evidence was brought out for the public to see, and how Johnny Depp has just reignited his career and overcome something that a lot of people were affected by. And there is a lot of misbehavior in Hollywood. We've talked about this before. And with Kevin Spacey, Chris Tucker, many other people like that had to do with some much darker things than what's going on. But we saw the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. And, well, we didn't see the trial because they hid it from everybody. She was the only one that wound up going to jail, if she even went to jail. I don't think she did. I think she's off on a private island somewhere with Jeffrey Epstein. But they were at least exposing that. But they're throwing each other under the bus now to try to protect themselves. And when we get them into that panic mode where they're throwing each other under the bus, I mean, they're even throwing Biden under the bus right now. And Jen Psaki was coming out and Biden was saying one thing, and Jen Psaki would turn around and say, no, that doesn't represent the White House. That doesn't represent this administration. So you can see the infighting going on there. You can see the divide and conquer happening from inside. And if there's anything that I've learned about the art of war, is that a house divided itself against itself cannot stand. And I don't want to say that's from the art of war. I think that's a Shakespearean quote. But the point is that you can sustain attacks from the outside, but you cannot sustain attacks coming from the inside. And we're watching themselves because we're watching themselves tear themselves apart, because they're all about self-preservation. And that's the beautiful thing about greed, about when they get in that greed mindset, that self-preservating mindset, they will turn on each other and throw each other under the bus. And we can just sit back, as we've always done. And we've done this in our own personal spheres here. We've used protective bubbles, protective energies, things like that to protect ourselves, leaving nothing. We do not do anything negative to anybody. We don't send any negative energy out, but we deflect the negative energy being pushed at us back to the sender. And by doing so, we've seen some people suffer horribly by their own doing, and our hands are completely and totally free of it. And so we're watching this now with the whole thing falling apart, and we don't have to do anything but just sit back and watch and just focus on ourselves, clear ourselves out of all negative energies and attachments. And as we're clearing ourselves out of negative energies and attachments, they're clearing themselves off of the board completely. And also, this is dark, this is macabre, but we're also watching what's called sudden death sudden adult death syndrome, some new thing that they came out with. And that's, in my opinion, NPCs being deleted from the board. And I just want to send my condolences to anybody out there who has been dealing with family members who might have succumbed to what they term sudden adult death syndrome, where suddenly somebody perfectly healthy, 31-year-old woman, I was reading an article, she used to exercise all the time, ran, was in perfect shape, all of a sudden just dropped dead, just like that. You know why, I know why. YouTube doesn't want me to tell you why, but I don't have to tell you why. You all know why. And it's decisions people made on their own. It's decisions people made on their own based on being infected with the mind virus, which is fear and lack of empathy and compassion for everyone else. And that's the thing about freedom. I've always said this. Sometimes we have to defend other people's freedoms even though we don't agree with the action, because we are defending our own freedom in the process. The Roe v. Wade thing, for instance. This is why I'm a big proponent of Roe v. Wade, and I do not want to see this taken away. And it's funny because everything they were fear-mongering about the other guy, nuclear war, Roe v. Wade, so on and so forth, they're all doing themselves now. And it's almost like, that comes out of the art of war too. Blame your adversary for that which you are doing. And we saw this in Ukraine as well, where they were trying to blame the other guy for having this less than perfect phone call with Ukraine, when in actual fact, everything in Ukraine was right there on Hunter Biden's laptop, and it's all exposed now. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So there's a perfect example of blame your adversary for what it is that you are doing. And they've done it so much that they have exposed themselves, and the whole thing is coming down. And it didn't have anything to do with Q, didn't have anything to do with Bluebirds, didn't have anything to do with White Ninja Dragons, didn't have anything to do with any of that. It had to do with us, the BTV tribe, with people like us, taking the power for ourselves and saying, no, we're not going to go along with it, and we're going to respect the sovereignty and the decisions of others. And because we did so, we didn't interfere with anybody's choices that they made, even though they were trying to interfere with the choices that we make. And this is the whole thing about it, is that this is a karmic thing. This is an energetic thing. This is something that, I've talked about before, input and output of frequency and energy. And when you're constantly outputting negative energy, even if you think it's for the best, or for the good of someone else, you're outputting negative energy, and you're going to get nothing but negative energy coming back to you in your life. And I guess, I can segue real quick into the protective bubble. It's a very, very, very simple technique that I think everybody should be practicing, because it's very protective and it's very powerful. But at the same time, it doesn't create any kind of karmic ties. So what I do on a pretty regular basis is I'll take time to meditate. Now, I've used meditation for certain purposes. I use ayahuasca to go deep into the realms. I use meditations to just focus the mind and the body. And I will meditate for 5 minutes before I fall asleep, or for 10 minutes, or sometimes throughout the course of the day. And what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll focus on a protective bubble around myself, on a protective bubble around Cherie. And I've been focusing on protective bubbles around our BTV tribe as well. And I hope that's not imposing upon your energy. It is done out of pure love and protection. And I think the intention is everything. So I've been focusing on these protective energies around each and every one of you, around myself, around Cherie, around everything around me that I love, my cats, everything like that. And it's this bubble of protective energy which allows love to come in and pass through, so you can feel that love, let it come into you. And as it comes into your space here, your heart space, passes through into the raw consciousness, then goes from the raw consciousness back out, amplified and sent back to the sender. And because it's sending it back to the sender, then the sender is getting all this loving and positive energy back when they're sending you positive energy. And I don't know if you guys and gals have experienced this in your lives, but if you have, you can amplify that by practicing the protective bubble. And if you have been practicing the protective bubble, then you already know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is just a protective bubble around your sphere completely. Now, the protective bubble is also reflective. So it deflects negative energy. It does not allow negative energy, negative intentions, anything like that to pass through. Instead, what it does is it hits the surface of that bubble. It doesn't amplify it. So we're not taking it, passing it into the raw consciousness, amplifying it, and sending it back to the sender as we are with the love energy. The love energy is amplified because we're taking it from ourselves and sending back the same amount of love that was sent. Whereas the negative energy, we don't want to do that with. And the reason is because it keeps us free of the karmic ties. Because if we were to add energy to that, then we would have to deal with the fallout of sending that negative energy. And now what we're doing is we're engaging in the very acts which we are trying to deflect. So we're deflecting the negative energy back to the sender. And the sender will get hit with an impact of negative energy. And the more they try to send it, the more that they're going to be negatively impacted by it. And I've seen people come very close to death until they stopped sending negative energy our way. And some of it is very sad because some of it has been family members. And once they stopped, everything started going back, right along the lines with them. And I always say this, the best revenge is living well. So there were people who were fucking with us for quite some time, and it's happened throughout the course of time. And I'm sitting back and I'm watching them, and they faded off into nothingness, or they're suffering from something that they're suffering from, or they find themselves in very, very, very bad situations. One person in particular wound up becoming homeless, and then being committed by the state in mental hospitals in 2 different places. And this person wasn't just sending us negative energy, but that was their entire MO, which was to just fuck with people and fuck with people and fuck with people. And there's a long list of people that this person has been fucking with. And as a result, they wound up in a very, very, very horrible position. And I would check in on them from time to time, see how they're doing. And I noticed that they stopped doing that. Once they stopped doing that, they found a nice little place out in the middle of nowhere. They're living a pretty good life, and they seem to have found happiness. And that makes me happy. Even though they messed with us for years and years and years and years and years, I don't have any negative feelings towards them because I feel like I help them to learn the lessons that they need to learn about not sending that type of negative energy to people. And as soon as they stopped, their life got better. And that makes me happy. I don't hold grudges. I don't, I forgive. I don't forget, but I forgive. And Sharia said that this has been so prevalent in my own birth chart, which is, I will be your most loyal friend. I will have your back no matter what. But if you fuck me over, I'm not going to take revenge on you, but I will X you out of my life. And you no longer exist after that. And she said it's one of my most prominent traits. And I think it's just from the many, many, many lives that I've lived and the understanding of the karmic energies, that even if somebody wrongs you, it doesn't mean that it has to be an eye for an eye. It doesn't have to be tit for tat. Instead, you just let karma just completely and totally deal with it. You let your bubble reflect back the negative energy, and you will find yourself always in the position of power. And don't let anybody live in your mind rent free. That's the what they say. Oh, I'm living in this guy's mind, rent free, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I just think back on a physical level too, like, while all this was going on, and this is stuff from way back, like, 2010, 2011, we were working on growing ourselves, on working on our spirituality, on bettering ourselves. Meanwhile, they would literally stay up in the middle of the night trying to figure out how to fuck with us. And I can only share my own experiences because I don't know your experiences out there. But I can tell you the energy output was energy output of positive energy. And it was energy to work on oneself instead of focusing on them. And that's what they wanted us to do. They wanted us to focus on them. But instead we said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to focus on ourselves. And I didn't realize the extent of what we were doing back then. But what was going on is that it was like monkeys throwing shit. And that's the best way that I can describe it, throwing shit. And so we were trying to get higher and higher and higher and higher away from their ability to throw the shit. And it just seemed like every time they throw the shit, it would fall right back on their faces. And they would wind up getting stinky as a result of it. And I do sit back and chuckle a little bit. I got to say, it's hard for me to, for the 3D self to not sit back and go, well, I'm kind of chuckling a little bit at this. But to see them overcome it and to see them living well now and learning the lessons, I feel that that I helped a few people. And even when Nina the Mystic, thank you very much for the loving super chat, sending healing energy and love from Canada. Thank you, Nina. Thank you. But that's the thing is, even if I was able to help them, I transmuted that negative experience into something positive. And that's what we have to do. We have to transmute everything in our lives from negative into positive. And that way you have a completely and totally positive life. And it doesn't matter if you get hit with negative things that are happening in your life. You can transmute those into something positive, and it's very easy to do so. All you have to do is just ask yourself, what lesson is the universe trying to teach me at this point? What lesson can I learn from this negative experience? How can I improve myself? What did I do to provoke this experience? Did I do anything to provoke it? Was my discernment not honed? In that particular instance, my discernment was not honed. This person had a really, really, really shady background and all kinds of things like that. And I purposely chose to ignore that because I wanted to give this person a clean slate and a fresh start. As it turned out, that person hadn't learned the lessons. And so all the negative and toxic behaviors that this person was engaging in turned to me. And then it turned to others. And it turned to dozens and dozens and dozens of people. So that's just one experience that I transmuted throughout the course of time. And we've had a lot of negative things happening. So as I said, Cherie is planning, we are planning to take Cherie to surgery first thing in the morning, tomorrow morning. And I know that the entire BTV tribe is sending positive energy. And I looked up the statistics. There is a 90 to 100% chance of success for this particular surgery. And there is a 0.038% chance of, I'm sorry, take that back, 0.38% chance of any complications whatsoever. And it's done robotically, and it's done by a surgeon that understands energy flow, understands energy, and is the best surgeon in his field. And Cherie is such an anomaly that as far as her avatar, that she has, when she had her intussusception surgery back in 2012, which was life or death, it was literally life or death. Had we waited another 4 hours, 6 hours, there would have been no turning back at that point. We did a show. We got off the show at 2 a.m. We were at the ER at 2:30. She was on the operating table by 4:30 a.m. On that day. And if we had waited any longer, it would have gone, an intussusception is when the bowels telescope into each other and they become necrotic. So once they become necrotic, it becomes a ticking time bomb. Had we waited any longer, had we gone to sleep after the show, had we done anything differently, she wouldn't be here for the rest of the journey, and we would have, everything would have been completely different. But the energies we were tuned into the energies, we were tuned into each other, and she didn't want to go. And I said, no, we are going to go. There's something telling me that we need to go right now. And she's like, yeah, we just did a show though. I don't want to contaminate the energy with the show. Let's just wait till tomorrow and let me get some rest. No, we are going right now. And when we did, we realized, I didn't even know this until after the fact because the doctors would not tell us this. But she had a 40% chance survival rate on that surgery. And I was pacing back and forth. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was pacing back and forth in the parking lot, and she lied to me. But it was okay. I think honesty is always the best, but she lied to me. And she said that there was no viewing platform. And so the doctors told me that I couldn't view the surgery because there was no viewing platform. And she purposefully told them that because she thought it would be too traumatic for me to see what was going on, with the surgery, because it was, they're basically taking her whole insides out, and you don't want to see your partner with their insides taken out. But I don't care about that. What I was concerned about is to make sure that everything was going right. This time around, I'll be in the viewing platform. I'll be watching, and if anything happens, I can rush in with my energy. And in the advanced directive, it says he needs to have access to me at all times, and he needs to be able to touch me. And I give him authorization to be in the operating room and also touching me. I don't know if they're going to let me stay in the operating room, but I know for a fact that if anything goes wrong at any point in time, I can rush in there with my energy, grab her, and either help guide her to where she needs to go or help guide her back here as she has helped guide me. But over the last couple weeks, we have had... got another super chat from White Dove. Thank you very much. Please get Cherie some flowers from us, sending positive strength and love. I will drop everything to come and help. I do home and health and need a change. Thank you, White Dove. Thank you very much. She's in very good hands, and I will definitely reach out to the tribe in the event that she needs some help. No doubt about it. But we are seeing this in such a positive way that they're keeping her for 3 days for pain control, and that's it. And she's going to have... Okay, so we talked to the surgeon, and the surgeon said, have you ever done ketamine? And we're like, yeah, we got a little experience with that. He goes, okay, good. All right, because I'm going to give you a good amount of ketamine as you go through. Anish, brother, you are way too kind. I'm going to look up your order, and I'm going to send you a ton of Isolife. Especially since you're just recovering. But I'm going to take all these super chats. I'm going to make sure Cherie has some beautiful flowers that say from the BTV tribe, not from Chris Gio, from the BTV tribe. Thank you guys and gals so much. And I know that when she wakes up tomorrow, because she's not going to see this until after she wakes up, when she wakes up and she reads the comments and she's watching the video and she's doing all that, I think it's just going to supercharge her because she doesn't know I'm doing this, and she doesn't, she's completely asleep. And like I said, 5:30 we have to be there, so I have to take her. We have to leave the house at about 4:30, and it's going to be tough. I'm going to need you guys and gals' help because it's going to be tough, from 5:30 until the surgery's over. And they're not going to put her in surgery immediately, but she's the first on the list for the day. So it's going to be tough because I'm going to be pacing and my heart's going to be beating and racing and everything like that. I had this horrible feeling all week. And I mean, for the last several weeks, I've had this horrible feeling. Then they called us last minute and they said, instead of being there at 7:30, we need you there at 5:30. And then all of a sudden, everything changed. Almost as if like that change in time, it was creating a butterfly effect to where, I always think about these kind of things. What if the surgeon is in the middle of doing the robotic thing and all of a sudden he gets a phone call and his wife's arguing with him? And he's like, hey, I'm in the middle of surgery. And she's like, well, fuck you, this, that, or whatever. It's just an arbitrary example. And then his mind is somewhere else and he accidentally makes a mistake. So not saying that he would do that. I'm just saying I think about these kind of things because it's these small little differences. Maybe there's somebody in the room, a different nurse that would do something differently, or make a mistake, and now that nurse isn't going to be there because the timeline has changed and shifted and things like that. So once we got this notice that the time was changing, everything was relieved. So I'm really optimistic, and we're both in both positive frequencies, and at the heart of everything, we understand raw consciousness. We understand the soul's mission. We understand the twin flame energy mission, and we've had to purge a lot of negative energies. And to try to broaden this, it's time to purge negative energies. It's time to purge all negative energies, negative connections, negative influences, negative attachments, and move forward, because we can't move forward when we're tied into these negative energies. We can't move forward when we're tied into the attachments of the old, of the previous timeline, because we're moving forward. Thank you very much, Neela, for the flowers. Oh, thank you. Dave, thank you. She's going to be, I think she's just going to be on fire tomorrow when she sees all the love from the chat and everything like that. So, I was going to pull this over to Patreon, but I think I'm going to leave it on YouTube so she can actually see the chat and everything. And I think when she wakes up, she's just going to be, on fire. And I'm going to be right there with her. But they're going to give her a lot of ketamine. And so we've been talking over the last couple months about what she needs, and where she wants to go. We have a choice in this matrix on whether to stay or whether to leave, and I'm very, 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 I'm very sure of this on a deep soul level gnosis, that we decide when it's time to go. We have that much power in this matrix that we decide when it's time to go. And we can decide to go do something stupid and walk out in traffic, of course, as I've said before, but we decide when it's time to go. And so being in that ketamine state is going to allow her to get some very, very valuable information that we've been needing about the next activation site and the next chapter of the reset process. And everything in my 3D self was telling me that it needed to be done in March of 2021, and then March of 2022. But I think we needed to wait for the first cycle to end before we go to the next one, to begin the new cycle, the next sequence of events. And everything is lining up perfectly, even down to the fact that she had shit transits up until tomorrow, and her shit transits are like over with now. So even the surgery date lined up with that. But she's going to get some very valuable information about what needs to be done, but she's also considered and written out a lot of documentation in the event that when you're in this state and you're able to speak from a raw consciousness level to our people on the outside, the raw consciousness knows that if a door's open, you have a chance to walk through it, regardless of circumstances. Even though there's a there's a 0.38% chance that something will go wrong, and that there's even a complication, and there's pretty much no chance of death whatsoever. But she's been, considering, if the door opens and she's called back, can she take the codes required with her to go? And the codes that I think I should have taken on the 11th back home. And she's been preparing for that. She's got all this documentation down. She's got everything down. She did the same kind of prep work as before I went into on 12/21 into the pyramid, leaving instructions and everything like that behind. And, on a 3D level, as she was doing this, it was tearing me apart. On a twin flame soul level, the mission comes first. And when the mission comes first, if the mission is codes are needed, and they're needed right now, then codes are going to be given right now, So while we are both in the highest of frequencies and so optimistic, going into this state, she'll either be able to retrieve data or pass codes or anything like that. And, we sat down and we talked, and we said, if they are saying that they need the codes right now, we need to prepare for this possibility that some kind of anomaly can happen, a 1 in a trillion shot, and if she goes home, she goes home. Her intentions are not that at all, period. But from a raw consciousness level, we have been putting the mission first in that way. And I just have to tell you how much strength and gnosis in oneself that it takes in order to be able to think like that. Like, whatever happens is going to be, it's going to happen exactly the way it's supposed to, and it's going to be a positive thing. But I don't think that that's going to happen. She'll come back with information that we need in order to figure out what the next leg of this mission is. So I'm really surprised to see the doctor so adamant about ketamine. He's like, we're going to give you ketamine during the surgery. We're going to give you ketamine post-surgery. We're going to give you ketamine for pretty much the next 3 days. And she's like, I'm going to utilize this time to be in hyperspace as much as possible and get as much gnosis and information that I need and bring it back to the BTV tribe, bring it back to us so we know what to do moving forward. That also clears all the space. So what we're doing is we're clearing everything on a physical level, the toxic shit that's going on with the failing parts of our internal body. And there might be one more surgery after this, which is the SI joint fusion, but we're trying to manifest it to where she doesn't need that. But it's funny because we're watching toxicity from the body inside actually being removed. And as I've said this before, that, during this process, it was a long process of checking multiple things. And once they started checking her insides, they found tumors. And they thought the tumors were cancerous. And she had lost a significant amount of weight. Like she's lost about 40 pounds in the last 6 months because it's getting harder and harder and harder for her to eat. And so losing all that weight, of course, she's going to be, a little bit concerned that her avatar is shutting down. And she wrote this long letter, and she didn't intend on me finding it. But I just happened to be going through this notepad, and I found the letters that she had been writing over the past couple months. And she's left quite a bit of letters, and not talking from Shri Geo, speaking from, her raw consciousness. And it was kind of like, it was difficult to read, but it was so insightful and so, with so much strength and so much gnosis of oneself, that it was I had no idea that this was her thought pattern. She was keeping this kind of away from me and kind of dealing with what was going on, but they were checking for cancer, and we would not accept cancer into our lives. And I did some energy work, and she started to get these chunks coming out of her, and she took the chunks to the surgeon, and he said, yeah, these are your tumors. So we were able with energy to remove the tumors, and also every biopsy came back, and it came back negative. So we saw that happen. I've repeated myself, so I don't want to repeat myself too many times. But I had the same situation happen. I got a pituitary tumor, and they told me that it was malignant. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to manifest that. I'm not buying into that reality. And sure enough, after a series of tests, it came back and said it's a misreading of the MRI. The tumor's still there. It's affecting, hormones and, things like that. They got that all balanced out. But we were like, no, we're not going to do this. But I actually was able to break up a tumor energetically and watch it come out. I mean, I didn't watch it come out. I was like sitting there like watching it come out. But, as it was coming out, she was saving the matter and taking it and he's like, yeah, your tumor's not there anymore. It's gone. So it was incredible. But, they're removing a piece it's toxic. And it's funny because we've been removing the toxic elements out of our relationship and out of our sphere. And we've been removing toxic people out of our sphere as well. And that's really what I wanted to talk about here, is the removal of all things toxic within one's own sphere, because that's what's required in order to pass through into the next phase. Think about it as a firewall and a virus detector. If you have the virus inside of you, the mind virus, you can't pass through the firewall. You can't pass to the next level of the decontamination process. And I think that's why we're seeing some of us stay and we're seeing other of us leave, because the virus is so strong within them. I'm talking about the ethereal virus. People have been asking, what virus? We're talking about like the matrix in terms of a computer program or a computer, and the virus within the computer itself. And when you think about it, what is the brain? The brain is a computer. The body is a computer. So the body can be infected with viruses, which are both physical and also ethereal as well. And it all comes down to fear. It all comes down to the removal of fear. So let me take a quick break real quick just to kind of break it up a little bit. And then I want to get into the removal of fear, the detoxification process that we've done. And maybe I can help you guys and gals reflect upon your own journey and ask yourselves, what are some of the toxic elements that need to be removed from my life? And why am I holding on to those attachments? We'll be right back.
Your father dropped his guard. That was not only extremely stupid, but now I'm forced to write down everything I know as a defense against the remote possibility that sex war fight.
I'm sorry, but the corpses of my parents have inconvenienced you.
Apology accepted. Now, get out!
Seth must be stopped before it destroys us all. You see the wisdom in that, don't you?
This is far too important to risk.
Wise Lord of the Sacred Word, seek your counsel.
You know they say, what goes around comes around. As above, so let it be underground. We're rising up, but they wanna keep us down. That's why they come around, bumping all those fucked up sounds. We seek to elevate, they seek to separate. We bring the ancient knowledge, they bring a new age cage. Now up is down, and everything is left to right. That's why you see me and Dimitri in the crescent light. I'll take a hit, hold it in, and I'll do it thrice. I'll look inside, for the wisdom and the light. Now this final life is our final chance to get it right. We'll stand united or we'll fade into the dark of night. But I won't stop, even if you're on the other side. The sands divide, but I didn't draw the line. This time I won't stand neutral and write it in my book, but I can help you find your eyes so you can take another look. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. I'm the one that wrote it down when it all begun. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. 3 strokes from my pen and then the shit gets done. I'm the chosen one, I'm the original one. I'm the one that wrote it down when it all begun. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. 3 strokes from my pen and then the shit gets done. Our sacred gnosis, buried by deception. Just like the path to hell is paved with good intentions. Our sacred temples, blocked out by unworthy hands. Just read the writings on the walls if you even can. They wrote their lies on paper, we carved the truth in stone. That's why you see me spitting knowledge on this microphone. So listen up, if you have the heart to feel these words. Their time is up, now it's time for us to clear the board. But I can't do it on my own, cause there's too much evil. I hit this DMT alone, to kill the ego. This stage is set, but it really doesn't have to be. And don't forget, we're surrounded by these frenemies. So let it be, written as it should be done. Let the wisdom of the ancients call the chosen ones. When the moon faces off with the burning sun, we'll bring the rain to the thunders of Poseidon. I'm the chosen one, I'm the original one. I'm the one that wrote it down when it all begun. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. 3 strokes from my pen and then the shit gets done. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. I'm the one that wrote it down when it all begun. I'm not the chosen one, I'm the original one. 3 strokes from my pen and then the shit gets done.
He's not the chosen one. He's the original one. He's not the chosen one. He's the original. He's the original one.
ibis is risen. I'm not the chosen one. 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 I'm the original one. Yeah. Don't forget, it's going down. System reset. Total apocalypse. So all you fake ass motherfuckers out there, we see right through your love and life bullshit. Cause we're putting in the real motherfucking work. We just keep on winning.
I love it. I love it. I need to release that track. Sheree did such a great job on the backup vocals on that. Obviously, I haven't been able to focus on music lately because we've been focusing on removing the toxic elements from our lives. And I think it's really important for everybody out there to watch each other's back. Watch your 6 o'clock. And, the number one thing is transparency and openness with your partner. Not with everybody, but with your partner. And I noticed Sheree was doing a lot of work internally for herself and not looping me into the process. And I was doing work by myself and not looping her into the process. And that resulted in a lot of confusion, a lot of mixed energies coming in, and toxic attachments that we have systematically had to remove. And we've been spending the last 13 days straight with barely any sleep. I mean, we've been sleeping for like maybe 4 hours here, 4 hours there, and then working through all of these toxic energies and emotions and everything like that that have been building up and building up and building up through the course of our relationship together, just naturally as two people do whenever they're with each other 24 hours a day and working with each other 24 hours a day. There's going to be things that come up, and if we withhold those things, if we hold them within ourselves, then they're going to build up and build up and build up, and they're going to fester. Sheree got a hiatal hernia, and I don't know if any of you guys and gals are familiar with what that is, but that's when the stomach kind of pops up, and the food stops from being able to go down, and it makes it very difficult to eat. And as her hiatal hernia was getting worse and worse and worse, she was holding in more and more and more of some of the things that she's been holding on to. And it left me in a position where, number one, I didn't know what was going on. Number two, I couldn't help her. Number three, I couldn't watch her back. And number four, I couldn't help her remove these toxic elements and attachments. And that resulted in a physical manifestation of the body reacting to withholding a lot of things that should be out in the open. So I'll give you a couple of examples without trying to go into too many personal things. There are certain behavioral patterns, certain behavioral traits that were bothering her. But instead of just coming out and telling me about it, she would hold it in and hold it in and hold it in. And I would repeat these behavioral patterns. A lot of it had to do with reactions. So the kind of tipping point where all this just all came to the surface was I was talking about something and I said, I feel like you're not being considerate of your partner right now. And she blew up on me. What the fuck are you talking about? I've been considerate about this. I've been considerate about that. I've been considerate about this. I've been considerate about that. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Where is all this toxicity coming from? And after we talked it out, she was telling me that she was holding a lot of stuff inside and just snapping at me for no reason whatsoever. And I found myself doing that too. I found myself ignoring things that were pissing me off that she was doing. And instead of telling her about them, I was expecting her to recognize it and to be able to read my mind and change those behavioral patterns on her own. And that is the worst thing that you can do, especially moving forward into this new chapter. That's one of the toxic things that we have to remove from our spheres. And, I thought that I was just like being understanding and putting up with things, putting up with her. She had a tendency, and I don't want to sound like I'm talking bad about her or anything. I'm just stating the facts. She had a tendency to blow up on me a lot. And I was just chalking it up to, well, she's going through a lot right now. She's got a lot that she's dealing with pain-wise. And so somebody in pain is going to be blowing up like this. But instead, what it was that it was things that I was doing that was bothering her, or things that I was ignoring about her that was bothering her. But their communications just kind of like was distorted, and so there's a lot of distortments in communication, and it was both both people thought that they were acting benevolently towards one another. Both of us thought that we were interacting with each other on a benevolent level, like, it's okay, I'm not gonna blow up on that, I'm not gonna blow up on that, I'm not gonna, hold on, let me rephrase, I'm not gonna point that out, I'm not gonna point that out, I'm not gonna point that out. But when you allow a lot of little events to fester, they fester, and all of a sudden there's an explosion. And when I saw that explosion, I said, okay, let's sit down and let's figure out what exactly is going on here. And she has two very personal issues that she was dealing with in her life that she felt like it would be burdening me to talk about. So she just kept it inside. The one thing is her father passing. I can talk about that. I'll use that as an example. Her father recently passed, and he was very, very, very mean to us at the end. But if there's anybody in her family that I like the most, it's her father. And he's really cool. He's like me. He likes to party, do all that kind of stuff. But at the very end, he started really bashing the shit out of us, calling us Russian disinfo operatives, saying that we are paid by Putin, and all this stuff. And we were just like, what? Where's this coming from? And this was in 2021, and all of that and everything that we've been talking about here on the show. And he was really speaking really bad to her, and that was bothering her a lot, but she was acting like it didn't. And then he wound up getting the thing in his arm, and he wound up passing away about 3 months later, and passing away from one of the reasons why people pass away from this kind of thing. And so throughout the whole course of that time, she was holding that all inside, and she's like, yeah, fuck that guy. But there's a lot more to it than just fuck that guy. There's all the feelings of the childhood, the good times, all of that. And she thought that because he had acted like that when all we were doing is trying to give him good information that would potentially save his life, and he responded in the most hateful way that he could respond, and in the most personal hateful way. I don't want to go into detail, but let's just say this was a really, really, really personal kind of deal that only a father can do to a daughter. And it was a jab that was so deep that it was the lowest blow a father can do to a daughter. And that was all sparked by the brainwashing from the mainstream media and all of that, and the fact that she was trying to save his life. And so when it came to the point of him dying, she held all that inside. And I realized that I was asking her, hey, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, are you okay with everything that's going on? Yeah, I'm fine. When he was in the hospital, I was asking her, do you want to fly down there? And she's like, no, I definitely do not want to go down there. And I'm like, okay, I respect that. I respect that. But what she wanted from me is she wanted me to probe her about it. She wanted me to ask deeper and deeper and deeper questions, whereas I was not wanting to intrude upon her space. And so if she told me I'm fine, I took it at face value, which I don't know why I took it at face value. I think it's just because it's a twin flame relationship. But I think all you guys out there, you all realize that when a woman says I'm fine, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm fine, you know? Women are very complex like that. But in a twin flame relationship, I just came to the point to where I was like trusting of everything that she had said. You know, I believed everything that she said. And this is one of the reasons why I think I wrote a post on Facebook. I might read it in a little bit. But lying, especially in a twin flame relationship, even if you think it's for the benefit of the other person, it screws up their intuitive compass, because the intuitive compass is tuned on the twin. And so you tune your intuitive compass, your twin is telling you one thing, they're actually lying to you because they think that they're saving you heartache by lying to you. So you think there's something wrong, but you feel it energetically. You feel something is going on, and you're looking in every direction except for your twin, because you believe your twin when they say, I'm fine. She was going through a lot of turmoil with the fact that her father was in the hospital dying. She was going through turmoil of wanting to go out there and reaching out to him, but at the same time dealing with the hurt and the pain that was caused by his actions leading up to his death. And his actions directed at her, and his actions directed at me. And this makes perfect sense to me. And I was like, well, you know, why didn't you just come to me and just talk to me openly? You know, I just bought new couches. I just completely made our living room like this ayahuasca sanctuary that's very similar to like those old 70s conversation pits. I mean, obviously it's not a conversation pit, but beautiful sectional, beautiful granite coffee table, you know, sage and, you know, frankincense and, you know, literally everything right there to create the perfect atmosphere and perfect space surrounded by Egyptian pictures and symbols and statues and everything like that. It's a little temple that we've built for ourselves within the house for the purpose of relaxation, meditation, ayahuasca, whatever it is that we need to do, and connecting closer together. But she thought that I was so offended at the way that he treated us and treated her, because she knows that I'm really, really, really protective of her, and that if anybody fucks with her, that I will respond in a very aggressive way, in a very protective way, if anybody's fucking with her. But at the same time, I'm going to respect her boundaries. And if she says, don't fuck with this person, like my father, for example, her father, don't fuck with this person, don't be aggressive towards them, her grandparents as well, then I will respect that for her. And I have to step back as the role of the protector and the husband and be the twin. So she was holding a lot of this stuff in. And as she was holding it in, her hiatal hernia was getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And so when he passed, she was very conflicted. And I would ask her, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Okay. You know, I'd ask her again, are you okay? You just lost your father. Yeah, I'm okay. No, I'm fine. No, you know, he made his choice. I tried to help him, and that's it. And then as we started to go through this, I found, because she showed me a bunch of video journals that she had been making for herself, and of her really outpouring her emotions and conflicts over all of this. And I said, sweetie, why didn't you just come to me and just talk to me about this? And she said, well, you know, I know how you are. And she said, I know how you are truly practicing what you preach, and you pride yourself on practicing what you preach. And if somebody makes that choice, if somebody, number one, attacks us for trying to help them and give them good, solid information to make good choices that doesn't lead to their death, and they attack us for it, they insult us, they consider us their enemy, and I'm already stopping you from being the protector and, you know, aggressively combating the situation. I've already taken you and prevented you from doing what you naturally do, which is be the protector of us. And then after he passed away, you know, he made his choice. And so I wanted to also be as strong as you are and practice what I preach. And he made his choice, and he suffered the consequences of his choice. And so I didn't want to bring all that energy to you and have you and dump all that energy on you and transmute all that energy onto you. And so instead, I just purged it all myself. And I was doing it in these little video journals that I was keeping. And also her dealing with her pain. And we've had a few things where I was like, look, I can't hear about your pain anymore. And she took that at face value. I can't hear about your pain anymore. And she stopped talking about her pain. And I found that I was miscommunicating, because what I should have been doing all along is saying, I don't want to hear about your pain unless you're seeking a solution. And I noticed that she kind of pulled away, and she stopped, you know, asking me to rub her. She stopped asking me for this. She stopped asking me for that. And I brought it up to her and I said, sweetie, why aren't you coming to me and asking me for healing? And she said, well, you said I don't want to hear about your pain. I said, no. Look, there's a difference, and I take responsibility. I should have brought this up myself. It's my fault. I miscommunicated. I can't hear you complaining about it constantly. What I need you to do is I need you to come to me and say, I'm hurting here. This is what I need to do. Or I'm hurting here, and you let me offer you a solution. But instead of just complaining, it starts to wear on a consciousness. And I was like, let me show you the difference here, okay? Imagine if I'm complaining, eventually it's like, you know, a crying baby. And a crying baby that you don't have any milk to feed it. And it's crying and how horrible it feels to hear that baby crying and not being able to do anything to help that baby. And just, if you're in a situation where there's just no milk to give that baby at that point, and that baby's just crying, it starts tearing you up from the inside. And I said, now look at it like this. If you were to walk over to me and say, sweetie, I'm hurting here. Can you please help me with this? What does that do? How does that change the frequency? Well, what that does is now you're coming to me and you're not complaining about your pain. You're seeking a solution to your pain. And then that makes me feel more like a twin. That makes me feel more like a man. That makes me feel more like a husband. And so when I said that I'm tired of hearing about your pain, it means I'm tired of hearing about your pain. It doesn't mean I'm not willing to offer solutions. And she said, oh, that makes perfect sense. And I walked her over to the couch and I said, sweetie, look at the difference between, hey, my leg is hurting or my feet is hurting or my neck is hurting or this and that, et cetera, versus, and I walked over to her and I sat down and I put my arm around her and I said, sweetie, my head is hurting really bad. Can you rub it? And I said, I do that to you all the time. Whenever I'm hurting, I come to you and I ask you to put your hand on my head or on my neck or, you know, something like that. And she said, oh, that makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not tired about hearing about your pain. I'm tired about hearing about your pain without being able to offer a solution. And maybe I should have been a little more proactive. And when she'd say I'm hurting, I'd say, well, come over here and let me help you. But it didn't seem like that energy was there. It just seemed like the energy was just like, I'm hurting. I have to go disconnect and I have to go lay down, rather than I need you to come with me to help me. And so we cleared up a lot of this. And looking in hindsight, a lot of this has been going on for years and years and years. And we were both oblivious to it until we brought it up to the surface and brought it out. Now, she was laying down and her hiatal hernia was closing up and it was cutting off circulation, and she had lost a lot of blood that day. And she was pretty much dying. I talked about this in a recent show, so forgive me for being a redundant, but she was pretty much dying. And she finally told me, sweetie, I need help. I need you to help me. And I said, okay, do you want me to call 911 or do you want me to heal you? And she goes, no, I need you to heal me. And I said, oh, finally, I have permission. All right, good. I went in, I did what I needed to do. Her hiatal hernia started to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink, literally on the spot right there as I was doing this healing and energy work. And it's still there, but it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And we had this conversation about withholding and trying to deal with things on our own. And one of the big factors has been like, I would keep telling her, you got to deal with things gracefully. And she didn't quite grasp what that meant. So we go to EDC, and the whole group is completely conscious to what she's going through. And the whole group was like, are you okay? Do you need to stop for a second? Are we going too fast? And she went out with us, and we stopped. We popped her toes back in place. We did everything we needed to do and kept moving on. And she's like, that was the most funnest experience I've ever had. I didn't know we could have experiences like that. I said, yeah. I said, what do you think? That nobody's conscious to what you're going through? And that and that we can't all work together? I mean, my best friend, he was like, dude, every time we take her out, we're going to make sure that she's doing great. Okay. So if we need to stop, if we need to do this, if we need to do that, I mean, he was like, completely and totally supportive. And she was feeling the whole time like she would be a buzzkill if she went and she was constantly having to stop to pop a toe back into place or to do something like that. So going to EDC and navigating through that whole night, and then afterwards I came back and I rubbed her for like an hour and a half. And then we played for like another 5-6 hours after that. And she hasn't felt that good in a long time. And I was like, well, you see what happens when you withhold? When you tell me, go out and have fun with your friends, that's telling me I don't have the ability to go out. But what she was actually communicating to me was, I don't want to go out and be a buzzkill and drag everybody down with what I'm going through. While everybody else is like, we want you to come with us, and we don't mind going through the processes of what needs to be done in order to make sure that you're comfortable. And we went to EDC, and it was just like a complete game changer because she realized, oh, okay, so I'm not bringing everybody down, and everybody is conscious of what I'm going through, and it's all in my own mind. And so she was holding that in for years, like 2 years, like ever since the car accident. Like we would go out, and we would barely go out together sometimes. And it was getting to the point where I was going crazy because I was like, I need to get out of the house. I need to go do something. Meanwhile, at the same time, I was thinking she needs solitude. But what she needed was she needed to know that it was okay for her to deal with her stuff. And I told her, I said, all we got to do is formulate a game plan here, okay? You dislocate a toe while you're walking. All we need to do is just stop real quick, pop that toe back into place, and continue on. Or take a minute. So, for example, my friends wanted to go run around on the slides and do all that kind of stuff. EDC is like, it's not only an electric music, a music festival, but it's also like carnivals and stuff like that. So my friends were going off, and they were riding the slides and, doing all that. And I was sitting down with her, and I was rubbing her feet. I was getting her toes back into place. I was doing all that while my friends did all that. And then they came back to the table where we were sitting at. So she had a good, 30 minutes to sit down and rest. And she's like, I didn't think I would have 30 minutes to sit down and rest like this. I'm like, do you think that I'm not going to create situations to where we're conscious of what you're going through? I mean, anybody would do that for anybody they care about. And we all care about you. All of us. The whole group, our entire rave crew cares about you and wants you to be there with us. And you've been denying us your company. You've been denying yourself going out and having fun with us because you thought that you were going to drag everybody down. But you see, here's the thing. You're taking away the positive energy and the positive connection that we have when you come to me and say, I need you to heal me, I need you to hold me, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. And you're not only taking that away, but you're also withholding it and withholding it inside, and it's becoming toxic and it's festering from the inside. So if you can learn anything from that and apply that to any relationships that you have in your life, whether it's parents or whether it's kids or spouses or anything else like that, the most toxic thing is withholding. Because, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're withholding something negative. You could be thinking that you're withholding something positive for the sake of the other person, but, you know, I think anybody that loves somebody, whether male, female, anything like that, finds positive energy in being able to help. You know, like, you know, I was taking her to a doctor's appointments, and she's like, you're taking me to too many doctor's appointments, etc. And I was like, okay. So she started going to a lot by herself. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of being left out of this situation. Well, that's fine. I'll just make music or whatever. And then I started taking her to appointments. And as I started taking her to appointments, things started moving a lot quicker because I got involved. And I was like, see, if you would have just told me to get involved, allowed me to get involved, things could have moved a lot faster. And then what's happened now? Now we've created a bond over this. Now, okay, you've got MRIs, you've got lab work, you've got stuff like that. That doesn't require me to be there, and it's not going to leave you in a state to where you're feeling like shit afterwards. Okay, go do those by yourself. Cool. But let me be with you in the major ones, the ones that, you know, I need to be there for you. And what happens is we create a bond. I feel like I'm there for you. And then afterwards, we go out and we get something to eat, or we do something like that. And then now, not only are you having a negative experience by having to go to the doctors and deal with all this bullshit, but then we're also balancing it out with a positive experience. So now you're not just going to the doctor, but now you're going to the doctor, then we're going out to eat together. Or you're going to the doctor and we're going to a park afterwards and sitting down and talking and meditating together, or just spending time together, or any of that. And then now I feel included instead of excluded. So now we're creating unity instead of separation. And so once we started to remove all of that, we realized that what we were doing, we thought was positive, but was actually very, very, very toxic. And we've been doing this for years without knowing. And the last 13 days has been spent going through all of this stuff. And it's probably both of our faults, because we never sat back and actually had these conversations because we didn't know. You know, wisdom is knowledge learned through experience. Knowledge is just knowledge that's read, but wisdom is knowledge learned through experience. And so we weren't wise enough at the beginning to understand all of these things. And even 13 years into it, we weren't wise enough to understand these. And these were behavioral patterns that were being repeated for years and years and years and years. And so the last 13 days has been spent just purging all of this, preparing to move into the next level. Had we not been focused as twin flames, had we not been focused as raw consciousness, had we not been focused as all of that, the negative energy festering inside, not only manifesting physically within her body with that hiatal hernia, and it's funny because they literally say that hiatal hernias are a result of stress. And holding all that stuff in, I am very surprised it didn't turn into cancer, because that's how cancer will form, in my opinion. You hold in the stress, you hold in all the negativity, and something goes wrong in the body. My mom had breast cancer, and that was after a very traumatic event in her marriage. And the breast is right next to the heart. You know, I'm surprised it wasn't the heart, but it was in that same heart space area. And she was withholding a lot of her emotions, a lot of the negative energy that was happening between her and my father, and withholding it and withholding it and withholding it, instead of letting it out in a constructive manner, not a toxic manner, because the release of that can also be toxic. And see, it turned into snapping for no reason. And I found myself doing that over the course of time too, but I purged myself of that a while back. But I remember doing it in previous relationships, since she is 5 years younger than me. So, she's 5 years behind, but she's ahead of me in certain areas, but 5 years behind in some areas. But I remember, just my partner pissing me off, and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be like the nitpicker, and it's that line between nitpicking and actually saying, hey, this is bothering me, and making the other person aware and conscious of it, because a lot of us will go around and do things that we don't even realize that we're doing unconsciously, and it's not until somebody brings it to our attention that we're like, oh, I didn't realize that I was doing that. So for example, when I said, I feel like you're being inconsiderate of your partner, I didn't specify how she was being inconsiderate of her partner. So she started going in her mind in all these different ways and how she's been considerate, and ignoring the thing that I was trying to focus her attention on. Where in hindsight, I could have said, I feel like you're being inconsiderate of your partner when you do this in this particular area. But me, I was just like, I was trying to open up a dialogue, and I felt like saying, I feel like you're being inconsiderate of your partner is the best way to go about it, because it's not accusatory. It's like, this is how you're making me feel. I'm not saying that that's how you are. I'm just saying that that's how this makes me feel. So I wanted to put that on the table there so we can open up a dialogue about it. And then she went into this whole thing about like I feel statements and all this, and like how, insults and aggression are cloaked in I feel statements. And I'm like, no. That's not why I was saying I feel this. I'm saying you're making me feel this way. I want you to understand you're making me feel this way, and I want you to understand why you're making me feel this way. But I'm not accusing you of doing it on purpose, and I'm not accusing you of even me being right. All I'm saying is that this is the feelings that I'm having. And so, yeah, I learned from that, and she learned from that too. But that opened up this whole door of all this toxicity that we didn't even realize we were carrying around. And we talked to Sandra and Alan of Twin Flame Divine Fire, and when we told them what we were going through, they just laughed. And they didn't laugh in a way of laughing at us. They laughed because every twin flame couple goes through the exact same shit. And they were like, you guys, we have gone through this over and over and over again. We have helped so many other twins out with this. This is part of the twin flame relationship. We did a show where we were showing our synastry charts, and our synastry chart is a twin flame synastry chart. I don't have it in front of me, but I wish you guys can see it, because it is a perfect pattern of every single aspect being touched upon in one way or another. There were trines, all trines, but there were no oppositions. An opposition is something that you can never, ever, ever get over. So when you have the opposite, I think if I remember correctly, I'm not the astrologer. I wish he was here with me to help explain. But the oppositions are qualities that you will never, ever, ever be able to overcome. Trines, from what I understand, and I'm going off the top of my head, I might be wrong. If I am wrong, correct me in the chat, please. But trines are aspects where you have issues, but those issues can be worked through. But oppositions are just, you are just dead set in those ways, and you will never, ever, ever change. My favorite color is black. Her favorite color is white. Nothing will ever change that. I'm used to using that arbitrary, but it's one of those things. But our chart is a perfect reflection of each other. Where she has her strengths, I have my weaknesses. Where I have my weaknesses, she has her strengths. And a chart like this is extremely, extremely rare to see. But it comes with a lot of challenges that both partners have to be conscious of. And we also talked about soulmate charts. And soulmate charts are very much like lined up in very particular ways, where it's focused mostly on the strengths, and you might have some oppositions that are impossible to get over. And so soulmate relationships, they'll last and they'll be much more easier to navigate, and you can deal with them a lot easier because you're going to have a lot more fun. But eventually those oppositions are going to get in the way, and the relationship is going to, either you're going to just deal with it and be a constant headache, or you're not going to be able to deal with it, and the soulmate relationship will eventually fade, because you might find another soulmate. Soulmates are so plentiful and abundant out there that it's very, very, very easy to find soulmate charts. But the twin flame charts are very easy to, if both people aren't of higher consciousness, to just separate. So Sandra and Alan, for example, I think they're open with their story, so I don't think I'm revealing anything that's secret. And they do a show on tfrlive.com called Twin Flame Divine Fire. And they met when they were 20, and they split up. Gone. And they reconnected again later in life, like 20 years later, after they went through the process of going through different relationships, dealing with themselves and all of that. They weren't ready to be together. And it's so sad to hear about a twin flame couple that met at such an early age, but they weren't ready to move on into the twin flame relationship. But it's so nice to hear that they reconnected later once they dealt with their own shit. But it's reflections of one another. You can't bullshit your twin, because your twin may not see exactly what's going on, but your twin will always feel it. And that's why it's so important to be honest with your twin, no matter what. Because if you're saying, I'm fine about my father passing away, he made his choice, and deep down inside you're torn up and in turmoil, your twin is also torn up and in turmoil, and your twin doesn't understand why. Why is there all this turmoil going on? What's going on inside? My twin is saying it's not coming from her, so what's going on? At the same time, that also leaves external influences and energies. It opens a door, because now you're withholding energy, or we're withholding emotions and things like that, and it opens up a door for parasites to come in and attach themselves. So we went through this whole process of clearing each other out from parasites and attachments and implants and all kinds of spiritual things that both of us were completely and totally infected with, because we weren't watching each other's backs, because we were too busy guarding our fronts from each other. And we thought that we were doing so to protect the other person, where in actual fact, we thought trying to protect the other person was actually harming the other person and harming ourselves as well. I'm surprised I didn't manifest anything physically, but my body's freaking strong as an ox. But she started manifesting the negative things within herself. And as soon as we purged all of this, it all became positive again. So I think I want to read this quick little post that I never posted on Facebook, but I want to read this, and then I'm going to go into some of the cleansing methods and clearing methods. And then after that, I will probably wrap it up, because we got a lot going on tomorrow. So let me see. I got a couple of private posts here. And I think it's this one. Bear with me for just a second. Okay. So yeah, I never posted this, and I should have, but I'll put it up on the screen real quick so you guys can see it. Actually, it's probably going to be easier for me to read on the screen. And there's some deep gnosis in here. So I've been watching the Johnny Depp trial. This was May 27th. I've been watching the Johnny Depp trial because, fuck the world and its problems. I mentioned that I used to date a girl named Amber too, and we broke up over putting dog poop on my pillow. I was dating a girl named Amber, and we broke up because she had taken the dog poop that the dogs were pooping in the house, And there was nothing I can do about it. There's nothing she can do about it. And she was just frustrated and put it right on my pillow. And so when I saw the Amber Heard thing, I was like, oh my God, what a repetition. This happened in my early 20s though. So this happened way back in the early 2000s, but I figured the Matrix is just stuck in a loop. But seriously speaking, though, it was quite interesting. I think both people in that relationship played a part in everything that went on. I used to throw things. I used to kick doors. I used to slam cabinets, in my early 20s, But I grew out of those things in my mid-20s and especially in my early 30s when I started to do ayahuasca, and I realized that it was all tied to watching my father react to those kind of situations. And so I remember one of my first memories was hiding behind the couch as my parents were arguing, and he didn't realize that I was hiding behind there. At least I hope he didn't realize. But I was right there, and right just a few feet away from my face, I see his boot come in and kick the couch. And he barely missed my face. And I remember the stitch that my mom put on the couch, and it was a daily reminder of the incident. And to this day, I still remember the feeling of the air from the kick and the look of his stupid 1970s dress boots. He used to wear these fucking ugly dress boots, and he still wears them to this day. I don't know where the fuck he gets them. It's like some kind of Walmart shit, and he's been wearing the same fucking things, and he gets always these new pairs, and it's these kind of like half boots that are like dress shoes, and they zip up on the side. Oh, they're so fucking ugly. Anyways, and he still wears them to this day. So as men, we're often faced with being in an abusive situation, but women are typically considered the victims. I was in a relationship in my early 20s and with this Amber girl, and I remember calling the police because she was getting violent with me. It was the one and only time I ever called the police. And she was getting violent, and I know how these things go, that when a woman starts getting violent, if a man reacts in any way whatsoever, it's going to be the man's fault, no matter what. I know how society works. So I wound up calling the police and saying, hey, I need to get her out of here because she's getting violent with me. And not only did she take my car keys, because I used to do the same thing, everything that Johnny Depp was talking about, his ways of dealing with conflict are the same ways that I deal with conflict. And it just came naturally to me. Walk away, create space, don't raise your voice, and just be cool, totally cool, and remove yourself from the situation. But she would take my car keys, so I couldn't leave the situation. She started smashing up the house. She was acting those kind of violent behaviors. She started punching me, kicking me, doing all that kind of stuff. And she smashed down the door, and I had enough of it, and I needed her out of the house. So the police come to the house, and again, this is in my early 20s, looked at her, who was this 18-year-old, 5'3" girl, looked at me. I was like 25 years old, and I was, about 180, 200 pounds, much bigger than her. And they were laughing at each other about the situation. They were literally laughing about the situation. And and they looked at me, and I said, she did this, she did that, she hit me. I'm afraid the situation's going to turn violent. I'm not reacting to any of this, but I can't sit here and be hit in my own house. I just can't do it. And they actually turned to me and they said, well, there's nothing we can do. You need to go down to the courthouse and file an eviction notice. And I was like, are you fucking serious? I'm seriously at my wit's end here. And this was the final straw. And this has been going on for quite some time. But the reason the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard thing resonated so much with me is because I have been in situations, it's been a long time, but I've been in situations where I have been physically attacked by my girlfriend multiple times. It's not just one time. It's not just, one slap. I mean, this was going on for quite some time. And the police were just fuck it. So I realized at that point that, I cannot let that situation ever in my life, period. I just cannot let a woman put her hands on me. As soon as she does, she's got to go. That's just my rule. She's got to go. The thing is that Oh, so I realized this was a one-way system. We all have reflexes, right? And as men, we are tasked with being the protectors and protecting ourselves and our loved ones. Yet, we're also expected to control these reflexes when a woman is the aggressor, because we're bigger and we can quote-unquote take it. And while it's true, when she punched me, she's 5'3", 120 pounds, it's not the same as me punching her, 6 foot, 180 pounds at the time. But violence is still violence nonetheless. And I remember counseling a couple, and this was several years later. It was when me and Sheree got together around 2015. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was talking to the couple, and the girl was like, "Yeah, I hit him all the time, but he's so much bigger than me, he can take it." And I was like, "Look, violence is never acceptable, period. And regardless of whether he can take it or not, you're still putting him in a position to where he has to go against his natural reflexes and not fight back when he's being assaulted." And I remember this was kind of prompted by that whole Amber Heard thing where she was berating Johnny Depp and saying, I didn't punch you. I was hitting you, okay? I was hitting you. I wasn't punching you. I'm sorry that I didn't give you a proper slap across the face, but you were hit. You weren't punched, you big baby. And he's like, that's a punch. He's like, don't tell me what a punch feels like. You just punched me. So it was like Amber on the recording saying, yes, I hit you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Johnny Depp's reactions were actually a lot of things that I practiced in my own life, which was walking away from any situation, especially if the situation is getting heated, creating space. Sometimes I would just get in the car and go take a drive, which is why, her taking my keys like that. I'm talking about my girlfriend when I was 20 years old. Taking my keys like that and taking away the ability for me to get in the car and go out for a drive and decompress was really wrong, or retreat to another room and settle down. And that's what Johnny Depp did with Amber Heard. However, I remember experiences where it was impossible. Car keys being taken away, the girl standing in front of the doorway blocking my exit, locking myself in a room while the girl kicks the door in, yelling, "Come out here and face me like a real man," and of course being hit. And I remember reflecting upon this relationship, which was fun. It was a fun relationship. I mean, I was 25. I was dating this 18-year-old girl. We had a lot of fun together, but she was still an 18-year-old girl, very, very immature and unable to handle being in a relationship, and just still had that little girl reaction. And so, she resorted to violence a lot. She did a lot of things not realizing the implications of her actions. And I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better at the time, but I got out of the relationship, and it was a relief when I did. Now, it's true that physical injury, being hit, that I've never been physically injured by being hit by a woman. She never physically injure me. She never broke my nose. She never cut me. She never did anything like that. It was like a mosquito. It was like a mosquito bite. But that's not to say that women are weak or don't have the ability to injure a man. However, a truly strong woman, in my opinion, doesn't have to resort to violence, because violence is a sign of weakness. Likewise, a strong man doesn't have to resort to violence unless he's being attacked. But this is the conundrum with the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation. And I think this is the conundrum a lot of people face in their lives. And this is part of the toxicity that needs to be removed from relationships. And if you're in your relationship right now, you have to sit down with your partner and either say, we're going to resolve these issues, or we're going to walk our separate ways, because it's null. And it's not going to allow us to move forward into this next timeline shift. So, this is the conundrum. What happens when a strong man is being attacked by a weak woman? And I'm not talking about physically weak. I'm talking about mentally. A strong man who might be strong physically is being attacked by a mentally weak woman, as was the case with Amber Heard. You could tell by her reaction she was mentally weak, because she couldn't control herself. She couldn't sit down and have a conversation, a back and forth conversation, and an open conversation, because it all comes down to ego. And when your ego gets bruised, when your ego gets hurt, you can either take that as a sign of, oh, I'm so hurt, I need to react, or ask yourself, why is my ego getting hurt by this? What is it that's going on? Did I do anything in this situation? Can I self-reflect upon this situation and try to figure out why my ego is being triggered by this situation? And that's, in my opinion, a very healthy way to confront relationship issues is, you say something to your partner says something to you, it triggers you, and ask yourself, why am I being triggered by this? What is it about this that's hurtful to me? Is it the actions that they did? Did I provoke anything for them to resort to these actions? Like in that case, did I poke her too much with my words to make her want to react violently? Some people have told me that I know exactly what to say to really pierce a person's heart. And it's even written in my birth chart. I have the ability, and I really have to watch my words because I can choose words that will pierce way sharper and way deeper than a knife or any kind of physical object like that. And so I have to be conscious of it, aware of it, and ensure that I'm not doing that because it can drive people insane sometimes. So I had to reflect on myself and ask myself, how was I responsible in that situation for getting her to a point where she was lashing out like that? So I think that there's two main factors that are the most damaging in a relationship for a man and a woman, but this is obviously from the perspective of a man. The first one is dishonesty, and the second one is violence. And let me break it down a little bit. Most people believe their partners because they invest trust into the relationship. And this is what I was talking about earlier, how I trusted everything that Cherie was saying at face value. But she wanted me to probe deeper. And so I'm looking at myself and asking myself, number one, is it fair for her to expect me to probe deeper and not just take her on her word? Or number two, is it my responsibility to probe deeper, where a woman will say, no, everything is fine, if you're in the middle of an argument, a woman is like, okay, that's fine. Okay, that's a huge red flag. I get it. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I don't get that. That's like man 101, understanding women 101. When a woman says I'm fine, you better watch the fuck out. But if you're not engaged in conflict and you're asking, how are you feeling about a situation like your father passing away, and she's like, oh, I'm okay, that is taken at face value. Okay, cool. All right. I respect the fact that you're strong enough to be able to overcome this. Or I respect the fact that if she would have done the opposite, I'm torn up about it, I would have said, okay, I respect that. Come over here. Let me help you with whatever is going on. Most people believe their partners, and because they invest trust in the relationship. However, when we have intuition, and when we're constantly being lied to, then we start to question our own intuition, which then bleeds off into other parts of our lives. And like I was saying earlier, when she was telling me I'm fine and I could feel the turmoil, I should have probed deeper, but instead I was looking for the turmoil in other places. Where am I getting this turmoil from? Where is this negative feeling coming from? I'm looking up, down, left, right. What am I doing? Am I doing something wrong here? Am I doing something wrong there? Where's this inner turmoil coming from? Is there something in my consciousness that, maybe childhood traumas, maybe something that I experienced a long time ago that's starting to resurface that hasn't surfaced to the consciousness yet, the conscious level yet, maybe something in the unconscious. I don't know. Why am I in so much turmoil? Is it just the fact that the world around me is crumbling? Is it just, $8 a gallon gasoline? Is it just all this? Like, where's all this turmoil coming from? This can put us in a dangerous situation because our intuition is dulled in other areas of life, and when we begin to make poor choices by not trusting our own intuition, we can then apply that outside, externally. So let's say I go out and I'm dealing with a scam artist in Las Vegas, and I'm using my intuitive compass that has been tuned to my twin, and that's been set off or miscalibrated, and now my intuitive compass is off and I wind up getting scammed by somebody in Las Vegas, for example. Just an arbitrary example, but what that can lead towards. Likewise, when a woman is violent towards a man, it forces the man to go against their natural reflexes of protecting himself and his family. So let me give you a scenario, okay? Again, arbitrary scenario, but the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing really made me reflect upon previous relationships. And also reflect on how much I've grown. And also how I had the opportunity to go through some toxic relationships so I can get to the relationship with my twin, to not bring as much toxicity into the relationship. But at the same time, also be able to have the wisdom and the lack of ego to be able to self-reflect, to ask myself why there is toxicity in the relationship, because there will always be some toxicity, and how can we remove that toxicity? The difference is, the older and wiser you get, the more that you are less hurt by the toxicity, the more that you self-reflect on the toxicity, and the more that you come together to find solutions to remove the toxic elements from the relationship. So a man is tasked with protecting his wife and kids. His wife is constantly hitting him, grabbing him, pushing him, etc. He knows if he reacts, he'll probably inflict much more force by the very nature of his size and differences. So he begins working against his own reflexes and dulling his reactions. So you're just constantly used to being hit. It's just part of your relationship, and that's it. Then him and his wife are walking down the street. A mugger or purse snatcher walks up, pulls a gun on them, and the man freezes for a second, because now he's used to freezing and saying, hold on, let me evaluate the situation here. Who's hitting me and why? Oh, it's my 5'3" wife. Okay, I need to just not react to this. But he takes that split second because he's used to taking that split second and conditioned to take that split second. And that split second is the difference between life and death. And this is why it's unfair in the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation for women to be aggressive against men. Because you're not only just expressing aggravation and you're hitting your partner and you think that just because he's bigger, he can take it, etc. It's not just that. You're actually damaging his ability to be able to be the protector that you're going to need him to be in a life or death situation, because you're making him go against his natural reflexes. So that split second can be the difference between life and death. So how can you introduce any of these elements into a relationship? So you can see how introducing any of these elements into a relationship puts everyone at danger. And so if you have these toxic situations in your life, and again, this is just some arbitrary ones from my past, you got to deal with those right now, and you got to remove them right now. You got to either sit down and deal with them, or you have to just say enough is enough and go your separate ways. Like, it's imperative right now as we go through this consciousness shift. And I'm not telling anybody to break up with their partners or anything like that. I'm just saying, really reflect upon the toxicity. And you ladies out there that are listening, reflect upon yourselves and ask yourselves if you're doing that. And if you're a lady in a relationship with an abusive spouse, that's got to go. That's got to go. If your spouse is abusive in any way, a man should never, ever, ever hit a woman, ever, unless it's in self-defense. But most men don't, because they know that if they do in self-defense, they're going to inflict much more damage on the woman than the woman is inflicting upon the man. So you see the fucked up position that guys get put into, that the Johnny Depp trial just kind of highlighted out there, the toxicity that can exist, where modern society will look at it in one way. And how many people were against Johnny Depp during the whole situation? He got dropped from everywhere. He got dropped from Disney. He got dropped from everywhere. His whole life was turned upside down. And all along, the abuser was Amber Heard the whole time. So it's a scary time to be single. You can connect with a psychopath like Amber Heard, where she's saying, "You weren't punched. I was hitting you, not punching you. I'm sorry I didn't give you a proper slap across the face. Grow up, you big baby." And that's okay. But I've seen situations where the girl was purposefully trying to get the man to hit her so she can put him in jail. and this was when I was counseling that couple, I got down to the nitty-gritty of it, and I realized by talking to one of her friends that she was saying, I'm going to try to put this guy in jail, so I'm going to try to get him to hit me back. And I actually saw, there's some videos on YouTube called Karens in the Wild. And the channel kind of pisses me off because they talk about people who don't want to wear the thing on their face, and they call them Karens. And that's not a Karen. A Karen is a person who is bothering the person that doesn't want to put the thing on their face. But they have highlighted some situations where you see a woman go up to somebody and she's got a camera. You know, the woman's holding the camera. A woman approaches her, hits her, and then she falls to the ground as if she is the victim and crying on the ground and doing this and doing that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. JCK is in the house. How are you, my lovely sister? Nice to see you. I can't read your super chat just yet, but 88. Much love, JC. Much love to you. Yeah, let me just wrap this up real quick and then get through this. So, I mean, it just kind of goes on and on and on like that. So I guess at the very end of it, you know, I can really resonate with one thing that Johnny Depp said, which was, I'm scared, I'm frightened, and I want to go home. So toxicity in relationships can be in so many different ways, whether it's verbal toxicity, whether it's outside influences coming in and influencing, whether it's withholding feelings, emotions, even if you think that you're doing good for your partner, as was the case with Cherie and I, where she was withholding her pain, thinking that she's doing me a favor and that I'm not having to quote unquote deal with it. But what she was actually doing is taking away from my ability to be there for her. And once she started including me more in her healthcare, then I felt like I was doing something. I felt like I had some power in the situation. There's another situation in her life, I'm not going to bring it up, but it had to do with her grandparents and the connections and toxic connections that she had with them, and the way that they would make her feel. And she started quoting some Bible shit one time, and when she did, her grandmother was just like speechless, because she was like, well, Jesus did and Jesus did that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and you're not quite acting like Jesus right now. She was talking really bad about another member of the family who was like a stripper and, you know, chose to do that kind of stuff. And they were plotting and scheming on how they were going to take her baby away. And, I mean, it's bad. I'm not trying to diss Cherie's family, but there's a lot of baby taking in that family. It's creepy. So they were plotting and scheming and talking shit about her. And, Cherie basically called her out. And she was like, Jesus didn't come for the Pharisees. Jesus came for the whores and the sinners and this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Are you acting like Jesus right now? And her grandmother just froze. I was like, and I was like, good for you, twin. Good for you. I am so proud of you for taking a stand like that. I'm so glad to see you standing up for that member of your family who's been an outcast because of the life choices that they made. And you're absolutely right. Jesus didn't come for the Pharisees. Jesus came for the sinners. Jesus didn't come for the church. Jesus came to take down the church. So Cherie was acting much more Christ-like than anybody in that situation. And I was so proud of her when she did that. But we've done some energy healing. And JCK, JC is so beautiful. I mean, I just got to say, you know, she reminds me of my sister. Like, I really feel like JCK is a sister. And when I see it, I'm like, oh, my sister's so beautiful, you know. Real, true beauty inside and out. And I mean that in a brotherly way, in a very, very brotherly way, like in a way that I'm proud. Like, look at my sister. Look how beautiful my sister is. But anyways, so and thank you again, JC, for the loving super chat. If you're not up to speed because you just came in, Cherie's having surgery at 5:30 in the morning, which is in 5.5 hours now. So I actually have to leave in about 4 hours to take her. And We've been, just going through. The last 13 days have been about removing all the toxicity from our lives and preparing to move into this new chapter and this new consciousness shift that we're all experiencing. And part of it is getting rid of toxic relationships. Nina, thank you very much. Healing would love to have you on my show. Tell us about the twin flame experience. Tell us about the twin flame experience. I don't know if you know what you're asking for there. It is the full spectrum of emotion. It is every emotion that you can imagine. It is pure love. It is hate. It is bitterness. It is sweet. It is frustration. It is satisfaction. It is every emotion encompassed. And like I was saying, our synastry charts are literally a mirror of one another. Like, we've shown it to other astrologers and they're like, I have never seen a synastry chart like this before. You guys are total opposites of one another, yet you conjunct in the perfect ways. Yet you don't have any oppositions, but you trine in the perfect ways, and you fill in literally each other like it is one being that is now completing everything, every aspect of the astrological sphere. I've never seen anything like this before. Whereas most people by themselves fill up a certain part of the astrological circle. And this is the reason why I fill up one half, she fills up the other half, and it's just like, it looks like a whirlwind. It really does. But yeah, I would love to come on the show. And JC saying that she has a very similar chart. I would love, JC, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to see you guys' charts. If it's something you want to share, if you don't, I totally understand, no problem. But I would love to compare your chart with our chart, and we'd be more than happy to send you our chart as well, and just see how they match up, because they're very unique charts. They are very unique, and they're very challenging, very challenging. But the number one advice that I can give from the 13 years experience is that honesty, no matter what, is paramount, and you can't withhold things from your twin, because your twin feels everything. And so if you're in pain or you're emotionally hurt or anything like that, your twin is going to feel it. And if you're telling them that everything is fine, then they're going to be in turmoil, and they're not going to know why, because they're going to trust you and they're going to believe you, and they're going to believe you when you say that. And so we've purged all this out, and it's been incredible. And I'm super optimistic about the future, and I'm super optimistic about the next chapter in BTV and how we're going to reformat things a little bit and just find something completely and totally new. And we're both focusing all of our energies on getting Cherie back 100% post her surgery. She's going to take some time to recover, but there are a lot of things that were wrong with her, a lot of things that went unaddressed. And it was this event here that now they're looking at hormone levels, they're looking at cortisol levels, they're looking at all these different things that they refused to look at before. And the surgeon said, when I'm done with you, you are going to be feeling like you're 20 years old, and your body is going to be working just like it. And I was like, wow, he's like, we're going to make her 100% again. And I've never heard a surgeon, like I said, say, but you guys' responsibility as partners, he used the word partners, not twin flames, but as partners are going to have to use each other's energy fields to generate the energy. I don't know how much you believe in that, but you need to use each other's energy fields. And I'm like, you're speaking our language, dude. You are speaking our language. So yeah, thank you everybody for the love and energy. And JC, you are a sweetheart. I'd like to meet you sometime. I hope we get a chance to. It'll be so epic. Me and you and Mark and Cherie all hanging out together. I think the fucking world would explode, though. I think, we'd probably catch the whole Matrix on fire if we were all four in the same room at the same time, especially doing mushrooms or ayahuasca together. Or either that, or we'd shift this whole world straight past 5D all the way into like 12D. We would just like the four of us just getting together would just be like straight 12D. Everybody's ascended, job done. Now we can party. I'm telling you, you guys are that powerful, and I know that we're that powerful as well. But we're only that powerful when we're working together. And I'm not talking about us working together with you guys. I'm talking about you guys working together and us working together as well. Now, when the four of us get together and work together, I'll forget about it. But that's where we have to be. We have to be united. And sometimes what feels like might be a positive thing by withholding or whatever actually is a negative thing. And the one thing that she does that pisses me off the most, and no, I don't know, JC, if Mark does this to you or not, or if you do this to Mark, but when it's assumptions, like, well, I didn't tell you this because I thought you would react in this way. And I'm like, well, you didn't even give me a chance to react. Well, in 2015, you made this comment and this and that and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, that was 7 years ago. That was 7 years ago. Why are you holding me to something I said 7 years ago? It's not fair. You're not giving me a chance to grow. Is that because you haven't grown in the last 7 years? I don't know. Maybe I didn't grow out of that. Okay, good. We identified somewhere we can work on. Likewise, me. What was it? I don't remember what it was. It was in 2015. We were doing a lot of ayahuasca together, and she was getting really frustrated with her shoulder. And she told me, you think ayahuasca can heal a broken bone like this? Blah, 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 blah. I need surgery. It's not going to heal me. And I was like, okay, that's cool. All right. And so I stopped doing energy healing for her because I felt like I wasn't invited to do so anymore. And I held on to that for many years. And whenever she would ask me to do some healing, some sage, things like that. I'll get into that here in just a second, a couple of the tools. But the working tools of a master healer. I held on to that. And I was like, well, sweetie, you told me that, you feel that only the doctors can heal you. And she's like, no, that's not what I meant. She said, you were telling me that the ayahuasca was going to heal me, and it can't heal. Like the shoulder needed to be relocated. And I was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the ayahuasca heals the soul. Then the soul deals with the body better. So the ayahuasca heals the soul. Now you can deal with the body computer better. And when you go into surgery for your shoulder surgery, which was back in like 2016, 2017, and it went on for like, there were 3 different ones. Your mind and your soul are healed, so now your body can heal, and that's the thing. She got really mad at me the other day, and it was a couple months ago, because I was like, sweetie, you've been really distant. Are you preparing to leave? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you have the power, you have the choice, and if you're preparing to leave in the surgery, then I need to know so I can make preparations accordingly. If that's part of it, I understand. You've been in so much pain that I don't blame you. If you're ready to leave, you're ready to leave. But you need to talk to me about what's going on and what your plans are. And, then I find her talking to somebody else, and she's like, he thinks that, I have a choice. You think I made the choice to have this body that's in pain, and it's this and that, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was like, whoa, take a step back. I was like, I wasn't telling you that you made a choice to have this body that's breaking down. I was telling you that you need to make a choice on whether you want to stay or leave. Do you want to be healed? Because that choice starts in the mind. And so you have to, like, in your consciousness, in your heart, you have to make a choice. I'm telling you that you have power, that you have so much power that you have the power to choose what happens to you. You have the power to choose your destiny. But before I can do anything, first of all, I'm not going to influence you in any kind of way. It's just the ancient soul that I am. I'm not an influencer. I'm more of a scale balancer, I'm more like, I've always been more about balancing scales and keeping them balanced. And part of that balancing of scales is not interfering in somebody's path. And I will not pick somebody up unless they tell me I need help getting up. Because if they're not telling me I need help getting up, then I feel like I'm imposing upon their path to be able to pick themselves up. And so, but if they tell me, I want you to help me pick me up, I'm right there. And I will pick up, but I will not impose. So I was asking her, do you want to stay or do you want to go? I need to know because you're acting really strange right now. And this is when she started losing a lot of weight. And I read the letters. My body's shutting down. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. You know, you'll get this later. And she was writing me from her raw consciousness. This was all raw consciousness stuff. And then she finally told me, you know, I understand what you were telling me now. I thought it was hurtful at the time because I thought you were telling me that I chose to have all this pain. I chose to have all of this. But now that I got my ego out of the way and I looked in my raw consciousness, you were telling me that I have the choice of whether I want to stay or whether I want to go. I have the choice of life or death. Are actually okay with either choice because you're seeing this from a raw consciousness perspective. Now my ego, yeah, of course, I'd be in turmoil. And I'd probably, you know, if anything ever happened to her, I would be displaying turmoil within, you know, from the 3D self. But the soul and the consciousness would be like, everything's happening exactly the way it's supposed to. But, man, I keep seeing my internet drop. That sucks. I called the cable company earlier, and they were, I was on the phone with them. I don't even know if we're still live. Yeah, okay, I think we are. So, all right. So anyways, I was telling her, you know, you have the power. And she was like, oh, I understand. You were telling me I have the power. Okay. I choose to stay here, and I choose to have a body that's going to be working optimally, a body that's not going to be losing weight rapidly. And I'm going to choose to have a body that's going to be balanced and ready to go on the next leg of this mission. And I said, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. Lay down. And I got my tools out. RME? I don't remember who it was. But it was one of our listeners. REB. That's all it said on the package. REB. I don't know if you're out there, and I don't know who you are. But I said thank you for something that you sent. You had sent me something, and I'm not going to say what it is, but you had sent me something. And I got a video that says, thank you, REB. I know exactly what to do with these. And it was some crystals that you brought out of hyperspace that were specifically for Shuri and I. And the energy that was infused were codes and life healing codes that you had sent to us. And I still don't know who you are. And I don't even know if you still listen to the show or not, but I know that you were prompted to send those, and I left them untouched, completely pure of energy, and I didn't allow anybody to touch them until I knew what to do with them. And finally, when she gave me permission, I knew that I needed to go to those tools and utilize those tools. Those tools carried energy. And I wrote something on Facebook, and I think that I misquoted a little bit, maybe misrepresented a little bit, not on purpose, but just I didn't include it. But I was talking about healing techniques. I was talking about tools, and I was talking about how tools are, Dumbo feathers. They don't really have any power. Like the magician's wand doesn't really have any power. It's the magician himself or herself. But the wand can be used just to visualize the energy flow. And these different tools can be used to visualize the energy flow. Now, you can take some ground element, and you see a shaman sometimes, if we're doing a ritual, picking a piece of dirt and letting that dirt run through his hand, and he's connecting with the earth energy. So I understand that. Crystals can be used to transmit information. They can also be used for transferring data back and forth. And when you really think about everything, healing really comes down to data transfer, either data removal, because we're looking at everything from a computer-based perspective. So from a computer-based perspective, how do you debug a computer? You remove viruses from the computer, and it's all codes that you're removing. Or you are injecting an antivirus into the computer to remove any kind of viruses, or you're going into the code itself and you're rewriting the code to make whatever program run more efficiently. So it's all code at the end of the day, but we can just call it energy healing. And I wrote a post and I was talking about how a lot of the tools are Dumbo feathers. And it's funny because I was on the phone with somebody yesterday on Telegram, and I'm very skeptical of Telegram. I don't know how I feel about that. I wrote JC earlier, so JC's in the loop about what's going on as far as Telegram goes. But let me just say that I talked to somebody who's saying that he was a 40-year yoga master, and that he was sharing some stories with me, and he was sharing some stories about like this girl that couldn't do a handstand. And he went up and he just went right in her ear. And he said, do a handstand, just like that. And she did a handstand immediately, just like that. And he asked her, why did you respond like that? She says, I don't know, something just sparked in me to do a handstand. And he said, okay, yeah. I didn't do anything. All I did was just clap in your ear. You had the power to do the handstand in you all along, but I gave you what you thought you needed to do the handstand. But you need to realize it all came from yourself. And we had this whole conversation about Dumbo feathers. And he didn't know what Dumbo feathers were. And I was like, well, in the movie Dumbo, Dumbo has a feather. And he thinks that only because of the feather he can fly. But he can actually fly. The feather is just, something that he thought that he needed in order to fly. It was what he needed. And I find in the new age a lot of bullshit artists. And one of them just approached Cherie. Was like, oh, I'm a Reiki master, and I'm a massage therapist, and I'm a past life reader, and I'm a tarot reader, and I'm a this, and I'm that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I look on this fucking guy's Facebook, or his YouTube, and first of all, he's got a bunch of like video game videos where it's like those Let's Play video games. And then he started about 8 months ago, and he had all these bullshit videos on his video page of like guys like floating dollar bills, when the magicians take the invisible string and tie them to dollar bills and make them float. And they're like, oh, look, supernatural powers. And then this one hoax video of this girl levitating in Russia. And video after video after video after video. And we were both sitting back and just kind of chuckling. And he's only been doing this for 8 months. And he's got like all these titles. And he's like, yeah, I heard that you were going through some chronic pain. I think I can heal you and this and that, blah, 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 blah. And we're both just sitting back and just going, oh my God, man, this guy is just, oh God. A bullshit artist that hasn't even, he's just a bullshitter. We'll just put it at that. Just a bullshitter, because he hasn't even had time to even master the art of bullshitting, It was so bad. It was so bad. But he was like, yeah, take this and do this and do this and do this and do this. And I'm like, ugh. She told him, she said, they're all Dumbo feathers. And she's like, and he was like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, when you truly have raw consciousness, when you truly are tapped in, you don't need any of these external tools. But these external tools are good for like visuals. So, I guess let me share this thing here. So just to wrap it up, it's actually a pretty long post, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. So as I've said, we've gone through a few different things. Back in 2021, when we got rear-ended, they found metastatic disease in my back. They found a pituitary tumor, and they were 100% sure that it was cancerous. And I even almost fell for it briefly, but my first reaction was my true raw consciousness reaction. I don't have fucking stage 4 cancer, because I didn't know what metastatic disease was. I just read it on the MRI. I'm like, yeah, it says something about metastatic disease. I don't even know what the fuck that is. And Cherie's like, that's stage 4 cancer, baby. And, I almost fell into it for a brief period of time. I remember, I was talking to JC about it. And I was like, hey, my time's about to go here, But I wouldn't accept that in my reality. And they did test after test after test after test. And, I told the doctors, slow the testing down. Anyways, those of you who have been with us for a while know what I'm talking about. That's a case. That's a case. Thank you, China. Send us the plague. Kung flu, the Chinese virus. Kung flu, the Chinese virus. But don't you understand, you dumb son of a bitch, calling it Kung flu, the Chinese virus. Testing is a double-edged sword. They test and they test. People don't know what's going on. Anyways, all right. Sorry, it's been a while since we played that track. And JC's in the house too, so she's reminding me of the good old days. So I was like, I'm not accepting this in my reality. And they did test after test. And the doctor was like, I guess it was a misreading of the MRI. And I was like, I guess so. I guess so. And same with Cherie's cancer thing in her stomach. They did test after test after test. And we were like, no, we're not accepting that reality. And so we didn't. She broke her foot in January 2021. I put January 2020 accidentally. January 2021, she fell off the stairs, and she only fell like 3 steps, and she landed on her heel because she had caught herself as she was falling. So she didn't actually fall, but she like tripped and then fell on her heel, and she fractured her heel. And we went to the ER, and they did an X-ray, and with the X-ray, it showed that she needed surgery on her heel. And we're like, oh, fuck, man, this is a serious surgery. Like, you break your heel bone, you're never walking the same again, and you have arthritis for the rest of your life. That's it. You are always going to walk in a cane. Your foot's fucked. And we were like, we don't want this in our reality. So her and I, we sat down together in the twin flame yoga position for all intents and purposes. And we let the energy flow between us. And we started creating an energy field and an energy field and an energy field and an energy field. And then I started to look at the foot. And the thing is, like, it's very much like remote viewing in the sense that when you're viewing something, you got to get rid of the brain clutter. And the brain is always going to try to manifest images. And the experience and the mastering of this is to be able to distinguish and discern what is the manifestation of the brain versus what is the manifestation of what you're actually looking at. So I was trying to visualize her foot, but I'd already had injected in my head her X-rays. I've had other X-rays that I was looking at because we were looking up heel injuries. I've had other people's feet. I've had a lot of sexy women's feet injected into my head because I, got a little bit of a foot thing sometimes. No, I'm just kidding about the last part, kind of half-assed kidding. But anyways, so, I was getting all these images of feet as I was sitting here trying to look at her foot and the inside of her foot. And so as I was looking at the inside of her foot, finally, after getting through all the brain bullshit, I finally was able to actually see her foot. And I started to see bone shards, and I started to move these bone shards around and kind of moving them in a direction to where it was moving the fracture. And I couldn't quite close the fracture, but I was at least able to get the bone shards to go back in and move the fracture up a little bit within the leg. And I started to visualize this, and she started to actually feel it. And when she felt it, she's like, oh, wait, my foot's actually feeling better. It's hurting in a different area now. And I was like, I think that's all that I can do right now. Energy work can't heal a broken bone. But what we can do is we can create a situation. And this is what I was trying to tell her with the ayahuasca. The ayahuasca is not going to make your shoulder better, but the ayahuasca is going to make it to where your shoulder will heal that much easier because your heart is healed and your soul is healed. So I'm going to check something real quick on my camera. It's probably way too late in the show for this, but I think I might have something that's making my camera act funky. No, it's off. Okay. I just see my camera like losing frame rates. So I told her, it's not that it's going to heal your foot. I mean, it's not going to heal your shoulder, but it's going to heal your soul and your mind, which then is going to create a better situation for your shoulder to heal. Like, if she had let me heal her with the ayahuasca way back then, she might not have needed 3 surgeries. The first one might have worked. I can't say for sure. I'm just saying, that it's a possibility. So we implemented this in January of 2021, and we go to the surgeon, and the surgeon is looking at the two X-rays, and he's like, I don't understand what the lab tech did wrong here, but you're showing fractures in 2 different areas, and this MRI shows a fracture here, and this MRI shows a fracture there. So I don't know if you were moving your foot during the x-ray. I don't know what was going on, but looking at this x-ray and the CT, you're not going to need surgery on your foot, and your foot's going to heal up fine in 4 to 6 weeks. And she was in a cast, in a boot for about 4 to 6 weeks. We got her a little knee scooter. She was scooting all around like Area 15 and things like that. And she healed up fine on her own. And I was like, see, sweetie, this is the energy work that we can do. Okay, you're right. Energy work's not going to heal broken bones, but it can make situations better to where the healing happens quicker, because you're healing the heart and you're healing the mind. And this is where everything starts from. You know, you remove all this, what do you have left? You have consciousness, and that's it. You can call it the heart space if you want, but you have consciousness, and that's it. So you're healing this and this to heal the rest of this. So same thing with the tumor that she had in her stomach. I did the energy work, and I did this a little bit differently. And this is controversial, and this is something that I remembered from ancient Egypt a long time ago, which I talked about in a previous show, so this might be redundant. But when I posted it on Facebook, I realized that a lot of other people are actually utilizing this too. So it was amazing to see that this type of healing is resurfacing, and people are very critical of it. And the New Age is very critical of it, and they're just as critical of it as they are with ayahuasca. And the reason I would say is because, number one, it takes somebody very strong. It takes a strong consciousness to be able to do this. But number two, it's because it actually works. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, the New Age wouldn't really be there if people were already actually ascending. It's just like the medical industrial complex. You know, they have to keep you sick to stay in business. The New Age has to keep you spiritually starved in order to stay in business, to make you feel like you need them. They're not going to say, here's your own power, harness your own power. They're going to leave you in states where you feel like you need them, you need them, you need them, you need them. I want to, when Sheree and I go, I want to be inspirations, and I hope that our work is looked at like Terence McKenna and others, where it's being studied for years and years and years afterwards, and people are coming to their own conclusions and own powers based on it. So we focused on this tumor, and this is what I did. And I've never gone into this much detail, but I did on Facebook for some reason. I just felt like I shouldn't hold this back, even though when I did it, I felt like it was an ancient Egyptian ritual, but it's based on a resurrection ritual. Like if you want to resurrect a body, and you can't just resurrect a body at any time. You can resurrect a body while it's dying. But if I was to say, want to go resurrect my mother and dig up her corpse, I don't think it's going to work, you know. But it can be used with certain other elements to create zombies. And I think this is why we stopped doing it, because it was being misused. Everything can be misused. That's the thing. It's just like a gun. Anything can be misused. A gun can protect or a gun can hurt. And so we stopped using this. But for some reason, it's resurfacing in the collective consciousness. So it went like this. I laid her down, and her hiatal hernia was getting choked by there was no more blood flowing, and she was dying on me. And I said, do you want me to call 911 or do you want me to heal you? And she's like, no, I want you to heal me. Okay. If it gets worse, we'll call 911. So I just happened to have a shell laying on my, not a shell, a plate laying on the coffee table, which I'm like super like anal about my house. Like I'm like gay guy clean, you know. That's what my friend calls me, gay guy clean. But I had a plate that we didn't have anything on, just sitting there, and I grabbed the sage really quick, and I grabbed some frankincense and put it down there, and I saged her. I was doing figure eights first, and I was like, the figure eight's not right. It's not right. I'm not feeling it. Why am I not feeling it? Because it's onks. It's onks. It's not figure eight. It's onks. Okay, so I started doing onks around her. Once I started doing onks around her, I started tapping into the frequencies and the energies, and I was like, okay, now I found the right symbol. Okay, it wasn't figure eights as you would think. It was onks. Maybe it's just because we're Egyptian energy. I don't know. So then I take a quartz crystal and there was an obsidian crystal. And the obsidian crystal is for pulling out, and the quartz crystal is for pushing out. So see, the thing is, it gets a little bit tricky because you have these energy healers who can heal you, supposedly, and will tap into your astral body. And with the high frequency of a positive energy, because it's a projection out, you can actually project attachments and hide attachments in that positive energy. So when you're getting attachments, a lot of times it feels really good, which is why I don't let anybody into my astral body at all, period. I'm very protective of that. But it's easy to implant, and that's how you get the implants 9 out of 10 times. The implants are going to come from seemingly positive experiences, not negative experiences. Like it would just be like, it's that old saying, like, you know, Satan doesn't appear with pitchfork and horns. He appears, you know, in a 3-piece suit dressed as a gentleman. That's how these implants get in. So, first thing was that I put the obsidian thing on her, the obsidian stone on her hiatal hernia, and I was trying to project it outwards with a quartz crystal, and I just couldn't get into the energy. I couldn't tap into the energy, and I was using frequency, and I was using different trying to figure out where the right frequency was, and nothing was working. It just wasn't working. And I was like, fuck, man. And she's like, you know, like getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, maybe I should just call 911. And then I finally get the idea, and I'm like, I need to take it in me. This is the only place. This is the most powerful energy that exists, is right here. So I take the pink crystal and I put it here. And I start trying to find the right frequency. And as I was finding the right frequency, I was noticing that I was having a hard time sustaining the frequency. So the it was crackling a little bit. And I was realizing I wasn't finding the right frequency. When I found the right frequency, then I was able to and sustain them like that. So it was that sustaining of finding it. And as I was doing this, I started to notice there were almost like 2 voices coming out of me, because I was pulling something out of her. And so it started to sound like there were 2 voices, like one coming out of her and coming into me. And finally, when I was able to sustain it for about a dozen times, same frequency, same everything, I knew that I had removed it all because I was sustaining that frequency. Now came the time to infuse positive energy into her. So I switch positions, and she's moving as I'm doing this. Like, she's like, you know, she's yelling out in pain. She's like, oh my God, I feel like something just came out of me, you know? And I'll tell you about moving about tracking attachments as well, because there were some attachments in this scenario as well. So then I take the pink crystal and I put it on her hiatal hernia, and I take the obsidian crystal from here, and I'm focusing now on high frequencies. You hear how that's bouncing a little bit? I'm trying to find the right frequency. Once I found the right frequency, then I was able to start projecting, and I noticed that the frequency stayed constant, and I was able to do this for longer and more steady. There weren't any cracks in the frequencies. There weren't any cracks. And so I found that higher frequency, and I started projecting the healing energy into her. And I noticed as I'm doing this, number one, the hiatal hernia, it beats with the heart, and especially when it gets tied up, it starts to beat and beat and beat and beat. And I notice as I'm doing this, the beating is stopping from her hiatal hernia, not her heart, but her hiatal hernia, meaning that whatever's wrapping around her is coming unwrapped. And I'm noticing the hiatal hernia was sticking up about that much out of her stomach, And it was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, all the way to the point where you could barely feel it. Like you had to reach down past the skin line to feel it, where before it was sticking up. So I started doing this, finding the right frequency. Once I did this, I felt this sharp pain in my chest, like, oh, and I just collapsed on the floor. So I started breathing. And I started my breath work. Expelling it, right? Transmuting it, expelling it. And I noticed that as I was doing it, it sounded like there were two voices coming out. Like I was breathing, but there was something contaminated with the breath. Like there was some kind of obstruction. And as I was breathing, I was... It sounded very much like that, right? So I was getting it out, and she was trying to touch me, and I was like, don't touch me. And I'm on the ground, and I'm shaking, and my heart is fucking killing me, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. Pushing it out. Finally, I start to get my breath back. And I'm feeling the breath, and there's nothing else in the breath. And I knew that I had taken it, I had transmuted it and expelled it. And apparently that's a very controversial thing. But the one part that I never shared with the audience in the previous show was what I was doing as I was projecting the energy into her astral body. And during the time of having the obsidian stone here and the quartz stone on her hiatal hernia, I was essentially giving her my life energy. And the way that I was doing this is that I have onks. We have onks inside of us. And this is the way that they visualized to me. And as I was giving her the onks, she started telling me, I see onks. And that was confirmation to me that she was actually seeing what I was projecting. She was seeing onks. And she's like, they're black. And I was like, oh shit, I'm giving her bad onks. And I start shifting, and I start realizing I have to cleanse my onks first before giving them to her. And she's like, okay, now they're gold. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. And I'm not saying a word to her as I'm doing this, but I'm passing the onks from my raw consciousness and reinfusing her with my life energy. And I don't know if this is just something that I can do with everybody, or if it's something that I can only do with my twin. So we did this again. And this time, same process to try to deal with some other things that were going on. And this time, this was when she made the affirmation that she wants to come back after surgery, have the best life, have the best body, have the best everything. And we want to see, we want some time to be able to do our work together and not let all this bullshit affect us. I see my internet is dropping here. Maybe this is just supposed to be for Patreon people out there. So if you're watching on Patreon, you've got all right, cool. It looks like excellent connection again. So, and I'm sorry if I haven't been paying attention in the chat, but it's just been it's been crazy. So in this particular case, what happened is my legs. I was working on something in her heart. And my legs were the ones that were being affected. And as I was doing this, I felt like this pain in my legs all of a sudden. And I felt my feet getting number and number. And then when I was done, I fell to the ground and I couldn't move my legs. And I was transmuting this thing, and whatever the hell it was that I was pulling out of her, I was pulling attachments out this time. I've never seen anything like this. And I was like, okay, this is freaking nuts what I'm seeing here, and it's completely taking out my legs. And I was transmuting it, and then I spit something up astrally, and then I started feeling my legs again, and I started feeling everything. And so I started drawing out what it was that I saw that I expelled. And first I asked her questions before doing anything. Because she was talking to some guy about crystals and stuff like that. And I said, what's the red crystal for? And she said, red crystal is for warfare. I said, okay. I said, what's the blue crystal for? And she said, blue crystal is for prosperity and for harmony. And I said, okay, what's the black crystal for? And she said, oh, obsidian. That's like a charger. That's like an energy charger. I was like, okay. Because I was like, according to this person, what is this? What do these crystals mean? So I started drawing out the attachment that I expelled and that I saw. And I started drawing it out, and 2 crystals made up the eyes of 2 blue, 1 red crystal, and it looked like a spider. And it had an obsidian crystal in its back. And I said, do you recognize this? And she said, yeah, I actually do. And I said, okay, so what is this? And she said, well, I've been working with this guy who works with crystals, and we were talking about getting a tattoo, about me getting a tattoo of actually a dung beetle with the exact same formation of the crystals. And I said, well, this is attached to you, and this is causing some major, major, major problems. You see these 2 crystals here, these 2 blue ones? This is us. You see the red crystal right here? This is warfare. Okay? You've been flying off the handle on me, and you've picked up attachments. You've picked up a lot more attachments than just this, but you've picked up one of these attachments. She's like, oh. Like, yeah. You see why it's so important that I watch your back and that you watch mine? Because this is what I pulled out of you. Oh, you know what? I wasn't working on her chest. I was working on her back, because she was having a lot of pain here. Yeah, she was having pain here. And that's the attachment that I pulled out of this area right here. And I don't know where she picked this up from, but somehow she got the idea to do a scarab tattoo very much like mine, except with a red crystal on the front, 2 blue crystals, and then an obsidian crystal right there. And I was like, it's your fucking attachments. And she's like, I had no idea. And she's like, clear me of all of them. I was like, I need to rest first. I need to rest first. I do want to take a moment real quick to thank Sandra and Alan. And Sandra and Alan are hosts on TFR. And we're not getting paid anything for this whatsoever, but I would really like to see some of you who are interested in healing and cleansing go to their website, which is twinflamedivinefire.com. And we were going to order a bunch of this and have it available at isolife.com, but they sent us organic clearing mist. Now, I have, I'm actually going to play the video
This
real quick.
clearing mist is taking a lot of ancient traditional culture practices. This is a specialized purified water infused with the sun's energy. The 2 main oils that we work with are white sage and the frankincense. And these are all certified organic essential oils. A lot of indigenous cultures in North America, South America, believe white sage was the most potent that work against energetic negativity. Energy plays a big role in how we formulate our emotional responses to the world, those around us. And then the last part of this is we add shungite stone. I really believe in the handcraftedness approach to making products, delivering the best quality vibration to the product itself.
Now, I don't know if you guys and gals can feel the energy coming off of that, but I've never encountered anything like what I pulled out of her the next time that I healed her, and that I was pulling out attachments. So she got herself entangled into some pretty heavy shit, which is why we needed to reach out to Sandra and Alan and kind of deal with a lot of the stuff that we've been dealing with. So I was having trouble transmuting one particular energy, which was very, very, very difficult. And a lot of our things became contaminated. And she told me, hey, Sandra and Alan sent us this clearing spray. I'd like to use it. So she went and she laid me down on the couch because my chest was on fire. I was about to explode because when I pulled the last attachment out of her, I have never seen anything like this. This was something fucking vicious. It was bad. And I couldn't even get it out of myself. And I understand why this kind of clearing method would be so controversial, because you're taking it upon yourself, and it takes strength. It takes a warrior to be able to transmute this kind of energy. It takes somebody really strong with gnosis of self to be able to pull something out from somebody, put it inside of them, and then transmute it, and then purge it out. And not very many people can do it. Same with ayahuasca. You know, I understand on a level why the New Age is so snobby about ayahuasca, because it takes strength to do, and it's not really for the masses out there. Yoga, things like that, that's very easy stuff to do. But you do some hardcore work with ayahuasca, you do stuff like that. Even the yoga guy I was talking to the other day, he's like, you know, it's interesting because in most cultures, it was only a select group of people that would do the ayahuasca and then deliver the gnosis to the rest of the people. And he's like, you're kind of acting as a shaman. And I was like, well, thank you for that. You know, I've been referred to as a shaman by many people, but I never referred to myself as a shaman. And in my opinion, that is the hallmark of a true shaman, when they don't refer to themselves as such, and instead allow others to refer to them as that and recognize them as that. But she laid me down. She got our wedding blankets. She started saging me. Then she came and she got Sandra and Alan's healing mist. And it's at twinflamedivinefire.com. I'm sorry, I don't have a coupon code for you. I don't have anything because I'm plugging this just simply because it works so well that I want to start carrying it on Isolife.com. But when she hit me with that clearing spray, this thing inside of me got pissed. I have never felt such an energetic pull in my entire life of something that was inside of me that needed to be transmuted that I couldn't get out myself. And she sprayed me up and down with this, and I kid you not, within 10 seconds, by the time she turned around to go get the rest of her tools that she needed to come back and start doing a clearing on me, I was unconscious. And I slept for 18 hours, almost as if this clearing energy just knocked me out, knocked out whatever was inside of me, put me in a dormant state, and allowed me to transmute it and process it in the astral realm. And I woke up and I felt completely and totally clear. I didn't have a single dream, nothing. It was total blackness while this was happening. And I just woke up and I was completely clean. And I felt completely clean. And I told Sandra and Alan, I said, you know, I'm not into potions and things like that. I like the real deal stuff. You know, CBD, ayahuasca, things you can actually prove have a physiological effect, things that have scientific papers backing them. But go to twinflamedivinefire.com, and I kid you not, this is one of the most powerful clearing mists that I have ever seen in my life, hands down. And I've never seen anything work as strong as that clearing mist. And so we took all of our sacred objects that had been shared with anybody at all, period, and any of her conversations with people she's done birth charts with, anything like that at all, period. You know, she does birth charts. And I think she picks up attachments by doing birth charts, because when you do astrology, tarot, birth charts, etc. for somebody, you're naturally are going to be tied into their energy. And you don't know how a person is until you do a birth chart for them. And she did a birth chart for this one person who just had this really bad energy. And it wasn't anything from him. His transits and his astrological alignments were that of pure chaos. And that chaos was entering her consciousness, which was then entering my consciousness as well. So we had to clear that, disconnect that, get rid of that 100%. And we cleared everything with this clearing spray, from our sacred objects from Egypt to my eagle feather, to literally everything we had, to the sage, to the couches, to the bed, to literally everything. And as soon as I sprayed this stuff down, I was knocked on my ass. And then once I spread it around the house, all of a sudden the energy was clear. And after 13 days straight of working with each other, sometimes 20 hours at a time, and getting some sleep for 4 hours, then getting up and working with each other more over the last 13 days, preparing for the surgery, we finally got the entire house completely and totally clear. And this was the last piece of the puzzle. This was the last ingredient that we used. So the only reason I'm plugging it is because I believe in it so much. And, I hope to be able to make a little bit of a profit off of it later when we carry it on Isolife.com. But for now, I want to make sure that you guys and gals are able to go to twinflamedivinefire.com and just get it for yourselves. It's much more important than waiting to buy this in bulk and then carrying it over at Isolife.com. And it's just because it works so well. It works so well. So we're entering a whole new phase of life, a whole new phase of existence. Nothing negative can come through with us. We got to clear ourselves of all the toxicity. We got to clear ourselves of all of the negative energies and everything else like that. And once we do, then we will see the world change. So, on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be. And I hate to say this, but if you've got those negative attachments, it might be time to say goodbye to those that you love, for your own benefit and the benefit of them. No more toxic relationships, no more toxicity in relationships, nothing at all, period. There is no room for any of that anymore at this time. And that's unfortunately with parents, with spouses, with friendships, with anything like that. Because if we're going to move to the next level, we got to be clear ourselves, and we can't have negative attachments or toxicity. And Cherie and I are so elevated in this journey that we were prepared to walk away from each other, physically or ethereally, in order to preserve the integrity of the mission. And we chose to remove all the toxic elements from ourselves and move forward to do bigger and better things here at Beyond the Veil. So, if I can leave you with a quote, the best is yet to come. Love you. Hey everyone, Chris Geo here. Just wanted to remind you that if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably getting a condensed version of the show. A link is going to pop up here on the left, taking you straight to patreon.com/btbtribe, where you can get the full shows. It's as little as $3 a month. And the reason is it helps us to overcome the YouTube censorship, the shadow banning, and also stay in touch with our BTB tribe. See you there.